What's up, my friends in the film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching? Thank you, Double Point, for giving us just a little bit of your time. Boy, it's been like a solid 2 weeks, and I feel like I haven't YouTubed in like 10 years. It's like I'm struggling to get everything going today. Been so very busy, but we got 3 full episodes now of The Mandalorian to break down, and there's been a whole lot of shit that has happened. And here to talk about it with me are my very good friends, starting with the Dowager Countess, Lady Cora. How are you doing tonight, ma'am?
I'm doing okay. A lot's going on, but I can't complain too much. Good to see you guys.
There is a lot going on. Yeah, it's like I said. I mean, last week was kind of a mess. Didn't get a chance to do a thing because started a new job, getting the schedule worked out. But yeah, it's been like for all of us, it feels like it's been just pretty busy. a lot going on. I mean, it's nice to take a week off every now and again, but I would much rather just be in my usual group. But in full uniform, of course, in full Beskar outfit is my hetero life mate Jeremy. What's up, brother?
Not much. I wish I had. Honestly, I've been debating on getting a 3D printer because honestly, the amount of things I could make, one of them probably being an actual, Mandalorian helmet, that would be pretty sick. So I don't know. It'd be a cool investment because honestly, once you do it, and I mean the materials are cheap, at least for now, and there's a slew of things you could make. So I don't know. May not be able to hear me very well with that thing. I might be muffled. So unless I can find a way to put some weird Bluetooth shit in here, connect it to this, yeah.
We can work on it. I was actually thinking the same thing as I was watching the episode yesterday. I was like, good God, I really want to make like a Mandalorian armor. Especially what's his name? The one who they rescue his kid. We'll get to that in a minute.
Vizsla?
Yeah. His armor was dope as shit. But and of course, our good friend, the Shape from the Lone Star States, our man Tex. What's up, brother?
Well, when we were here last time, I accused Grim Tuesday's other half of being the killer, and she's surprisingly not here. So is she the first victim, or is she just hiding in plain sight? I guess we'll see by the end of the episode.
Watch the background if you
maybe this is the way that we find her. If you know. So what's up, everybody? It's good to be back.
Yeah, again, a busy last 3 weeks for The Mandalorian. I don't even know well. But before we get into that, I really wish I had some graphics put up for this. But I do want to take a chance to remember Lance Reddick, who, obviously everybody from the John Wick franchise knows him. I knew him from a couple episodes that I've watched of like The Wire and things like that. But a long time, great character actor. A great stoic kind of presence in the John Wick franchise through all the 3 and probably the 4th movie. I haven't seen John Wick Chapter 4 yet, but probably through that as well. Just one of those nice level characters that brings a certain amount of collected calm to just about every scene that he was in. Did pass away in the last week or so at the age of 60. I think he had some kind of a cancer, as I recall. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't had too much of a chance to read about a lot of entertainment news the last week or so. But yeah, definitely very, very sad to hear of his passing. I mean, and Jeremy, you were a big fan, I know. What are some of your memories of his career?
Yeah, it would be it'd be John Wick. Honestly, was I think really my first encounter, and I thought he was just really cool. He's really calm, collected, a front desk guy, but seeing him load up a shotgun in part 3 and fight alongside John Wick for the Continental was pretty badass. I won't say anything about 4. I did see it, and
I haven't seen it yet.
It's gonna hurt. It's like obviously he's in the movie, but I won't say anything for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. But and he was in a couple video games. I haven't played Destiny, but I know that's a big one that a lot of people are up on right now too. People have been going to like his spot in the game and like standing there at like getting down, kneeling down and praying or giving him a salute. So and he was a big gamer too, which is pretty awesome. He loved playing the game as well.
Yeah, definitely one of those people that just kind of owns the frame when he walks on camera. There's a certain presence there that commands your attention. What are some of your thoughts, Tex?
He was actually I forgot one of my favorite zombie films that he was in. It was kind of a B zombie film by Jeremy. You may have seen it. Frank, you may have even seen it. Stephen Now's Remains. It's called. Stephen Now's is the guy that made it, but it just goes by Remains. It's basically the zombie apocalypse, and it's in Las Vegas. And This came out in like 2010 or 2011. And I was watching on Shudder the other day, and I seen him in there like 2 days after he died. I was like, holy crap, I forgot he was in this film. But, yeah, I mean, the dude's a solid actor. I mean, of course, you know, for the American Horror Story fans, he was Papa Legba in the Coven season, and he did it a couple other times.
Yeah.
But, I mean, solid dude. He was, he had, you know, I mean, he had the presence of somebody, whether it was John Wick, The Wire. I mean, he did a ton of stuff, you know, and, you know, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, we've all got a time to go. It seems like this year we've covered a whole lot of them dying already, but, you know, hey, you know, he went out on top. I mean, you go out in a John Wick movie for your last project, you know, we should all be so lucky, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, he was also in Fringe. He played, I think, it was a government agent in the TV show Fringe.
Wasn't he also in Blacklist? I think I saw him in Blacklist.
May have been. I don't know. I don't recall. I'm actually watching the last season of Blacklist right now. I know he's not in this one, but
Okay.
yeah, it's like Fringe to me was one. It was supposed to be kind of like a second coming of the X-Files. It wasn't nearly as creative. I don't think like the same creators weren't in on it or anything. It was supposed to be a little bit more.
Right.
They were trying to put in a touch more comedy, and it didn't quite work. But man, it was but he was really, really good. And again, just one of those people that, like, when he's in the scene, his presence kind of draws your eyes to him. And
He was on
really
2
fantastic.
episodes of The Blacklist, for the record.
Was he?
Okay. I thought I saw him on there, but I couldn't remember. I wasn't for sure.
His character is called, quote, the Cowboy.
Well, so he was probably one of the blacklisters. I'd have to go back and look at that one. It's been a while.
Right.
I've watched the first couple of seasons, but he also a little bit of a video game thing. He was in the Netflix Resident Evil series back in just last year. So
He was Wesker.
yeah, definitely connected with the you know, with kind of the nerd community. A lot of character work, a lot of appearances and that stuff. Look, again, very, very sad because we've gotten so oddly endeared to these John Wick characters, and not just John Wick. I mean, it's like all the surrounding characters. You know, we've gotten so oddly endeared, and it's become so normal to see them on screen in a John Wick movie. The idea of one of them not being around anymore is very saddening, especially one of the ones that we really like. You know, one of the ones that we feel almost a familial connection to. Because, like, we all want to be badass like John Wick, but when you have those protectors around the guy, because, like, John Wick needs his protectors too through this whole thing.
Yeah.
As badass as he is, he could fight almost anybody, but even he needs someone who actually cares about his well-being in some odd way that maybe we don't understand because none of us have ever been assassins. But even he needs people to kind of look out for him and get his back, and to have those kind of people there. We get endeared to these characters. We kind of start to care about them a little bit more deeply than we do other characters.
His character is the one that took care of his dog throughout the entire, I think, like, third movie, right?
True.
So, and as he said, he was a very good boy. Like,
True, but
yes.
I'm going to endeavor to see John Wick here, hopefully the next week or so we can get a review scheduled. New job, getting stuff worked out, getting schedules worked out. I've kind of got it now, but at the same time, it's got me about 2 weeks behind on a lot of stuff, which is why we're going over 3 episodes of The Mandalorian tonight, and it's kind of sucking up all of the air of this entire show.
This is the one.
But and Cora, for you, obviously, I didn't mean to skip over you. I'm sorry, but I mean, anything that Lance Reddick did that kind of jumps out at you?
Well, he was in an adaptation of the Great Expectations. I saw that many years ago. I didn't remember him being in it. He's somebody who seems to just kind of be in a lot of little things. One thing that I really remember him is his voice. His voice was very iconic. So.
Oh yeah.
I loved his work in John Wick, but he also was in a lot of other things that, let's be honest, now it may get more attention. He was in Godzilla. He was in White House Down. He was in a lot of little things. So, yeah, he was in a lot of Law and Order and CSI episodes. I mean, he should be familiar. And I guess he did some even voiceovers on some cartoons for Rick and Morty. I mean, at least it sounds like he had a steady paycheck coming in, and everybody should recognize from something.
He was one of those kind of guys that you didn't recognize him until you saw him. You're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. I've seen him in 5 other things. He was never like, the star of a project, but you always, it's like Cora said, he kept busy, he was always working, and you always saw him in something that was good. So, I mean, hey, not everybody can be the leading man. Somebody's got to take up supporting cast. So, hey, there's nothing wrong with it.
Somebody's got to work the front desk, damn it.
Yeah.
Right.
Somebody's got to control these assassins that walk in here and be their concierge.
Somebody needs room service. I mean, you got it.
Right.
But go down the comments below. Leave your thoughts on the life and career of Lance Reddick. He's going to be very greatly missed. I'm going to be when I do get around to watching John Wick Chapter 4 to be a bit with a heavy heart because I have very much enjoyed his career to this point. And again, I mean, a lot of video game. I mean, he was in Horizon Zero Dawn, Destiny. I mean, a big video game presence as well as the stuff on screen. Okay. Now. He was in Angel Has Fallen, which is one of my favorite franchises. I mean, it's that whole franchise has been really fun, kind of mindless action with a touch of political.
Isn't that the sequel to White House Has Fallen?
Angel Has Fallen is the last one of the trilogy.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, it was White House, then London Has Fallen, and then okay. I think I'm right on that. Pretty sure.
But go down in the comments below. Let us know what you think of the life and career of Lance Reddick. And now let's get to the Mandalorian. I mean, it's going to be kind of hard to break some of this stuff down in like episode 3 and 4 because now that we're like a full episode past all that stuff, some of the stuff I still wonder about. But I mean, we'll just kind of go down since we're breaking down 3 episodes at once. I'll do this a little differently. It's going to be a bit disconjointed again. I forget, but I apologize. But let's go to some of the things we finally. The last episode that we talked about, Bo-Katan had just saved Din Djarin from drowning very deep in the waters of Mandalore, and on the way back up, we remember in the second episode, third episode,
like second,
the second episode, she sees a living mythosaur that is just like hanging out down under the water. That was a huge reveal. That was a huge Star Wars level reveal.
Yeah,
that kind of had me like. My eyes were as big as saucers, and I was like trying to grab for something or somebody to make sense of it all, and that was all we got. Now we start this episode. They're still sitting there on the steps at the edge of the water. You can see Bo-Katan just kind of like skimming back and forth, waiting for any indication of what she saw being real, or maybe it coming out of the water and making itself known. She's very curious. And then Din Djarin kind of wakes up from being saved, and I thought it was very interesting that she didn't tell him about it. I wonder, Jeremy, do you think it was because she is withholding it, or she just doesn't know if she believes what her eyes are seeing? I mean, what do you think was in her going through her mind at that moment?
Well, because as you know, that the mythosaur is, I know it's going to be disconjointed. Like, I mean, we heard the armorer say that symbol it belongs to all Mandalorians. Like, they all wear that symbol, or they're allowed to wear that symbol on their armor somewhere. This is like their, not like a deity, but like that's their thing, and it's something that's only really. And I almost laughed when she said, "Oh, it only exists in legend." I'm like, "You mean legends?" Because they cut stuff out until they conveniently want to put it back in and act like they did it. But whatever, I'm still mad about that. Something that's a mythical being that's the center of your. I guess your whole creed, your whole belief. I mean, that'd be like actually seeing God, and you would come out of that being like, did I really just see that? And I don't know. I don't know if she's still in shock. Maybe just didn't want to say anything to him because he was. I mean, I assume he was unconscious, so he wouldn't have even known it anyway. And that even when she told the armor, it seemed kind of hard to believe because she's like, "Oh, you're very lucky to have seen a vision." She's like, "No, it was real." And then they're kind of like, okay, sure you saw it. It may just be initial shock, honestly. Well,
remember, one of the things that is in the Mandalorian creed is you don't speak of things you don't know of. So the armorer probably doesn't really know what to say. She's like, okay, You say you saw this thing, but I have no idea what you're talking about, so I'm not going to speak on it. Because all she knows is kind of like the legend, the myth of the Mandalorian stuff, all the old stories. She only really knows what she's experienced in her lifetime, and she probably hasn't seen a mythosaurus.
No one has.
Yeah, no one has.
No one.
Now, the running theory that I've been reading about the last couple of days is that when Mandalore was bombed and by the Empire, whoever it was that did it,
The Empire.
and it was basically turned into a sheet of that green glass, that it opened up some seismic holes or whatever, opened up parts of the planet that otherwise weren't open, and that's what has released some mythosaur that was kind of lying dormant or something like that. And that's one of the reasons why when they were swimming up through the living waters, that the creature didn't like snap at him or take a shot at him. He was just kind of groggy, saying, "Oh, I've been asleep for however many millennia, and I'm just kind of like getting my breath and figuring out what the hell's going on before I go snapping at this little thing swimming through the water." So like that could be it. Yeah,
it's like our own oceans. Like, we don't know jack shit about our own oceans. We know more about the surface of the moon.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what's down there. I mean, we could have a mythosaur on this planet. Who knows?
Yeah,
I'd shit myself too.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting, and it's something that over the next couple episodes, you can tell it's had a pretty significant effect on Bo-Katan. I mean, it's got her pretty razzled. I mean, her demeanor has been very different since this encounter with this mythosaur.
Yeah,
but that's an interesting thing that they explore a little bit more over the course of the next couple episodes. But then after they get out of the ruined Mandalorian capital and they're on their way back to Bo-Katan's castle hideout on one of the Mandalorian moons, we get one of the baddest dogfights that outside of any of the episodic films that we've gotten yet. That dogfight was dope as shit. I mean, that was vintage, fantastic, top shelf, as good as we've ever seen Star Wars ever. And I was watching this scene completely wrapped up. I mean, Tex, is it just me, or am I being too much of a Star Wars fangirl, or was that dogfight really that exciting? I thought it was a lot of fun.
I dug it. The start of this show, from the whole scene y'all were just talking about to this dogfight in space, I was like, okay, y'all, you had my attention, but now here's my money, kind of thing. It was one of those kind of deals for me, and it was the high energy. They had the old school the roar sound effects as the TIE fighters came in. It was obviously they were paying the homages to the old Star Wars. It felt like the old movies and whatever. And just the way the dogfight was going down, the back and forth and the whatever, it was just so much fun. I wish there was more of it, because this episode for me was kind of but the opening 5 to 10 minutes of this show, especially that dogfight, was awesome. I was just the way Den was handling it. He's so cool under pressure. He's like James Bond. Like, he doesn't get rattled. You've got 8 TIE fighters coming at you trying to kill you. He's like, oh, okay, you're back there. Let's just let's just do this now or whatever. It's just, it's really, I mean, obviously the way Pedro Pascal plays the role, he's very reserved. He's very, cool, waters, they run deep kind of thing. And it was very cool the way that he handled the way that they had him handle that dogfight kind of thing. I thought it was badass.
Yeah, Cora, I know you've been watching astutely all this sci-fi nerd stuff that we get into. I mean, at this point in the episode, as kind of a not a novice fan, but as much more of a casual fan than we are. What did you think of, like, the opening themes of this particular episode 3?
I haven't watched it.
What?
Damn it.
I was hoping you wouldn't get called out for not doing my homework. To be fair, I'm planning on finishing and getting caught up to Mandalorian by the end of April. So
I hope so. It's gonna be over in April.
Well,
right.
I mean,
all right.
Sorry for fucking it up.
One thing I will say about this scene was, I mean, are they trying to make these scenes feel more like the original trilogy, like the way that they're presenting them visually and the sound effects style? Because, I mean, you can obviously see a mix of the prequel trilogy with some of the things that they do, but there's heavily influenced on that original trilogy that they're really playing into, especially with these dogfights and stuff.
Well, remember that this whole
I don't
series
know.
takes place after the fall of the Empire, Return of the Jedi. So,
Right.
so timeline-wise, they're much closer to the end of the original series than they are really to anything else. Because
Right.
as far as the way that I figured it, this all takes place about a decade or so after Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Mhm.
So they're only 10 years.
Yeah,
away from
because
Return of
we're in
the
the
Jedi,
New Republic or whatever.
but
It's
they're
like
still
clearly
20 years
established.
away from what we would eventually get in The Force Awakens. So
Yeah, we're
timeline-wise,
not-
they're much closer to the original trilogy.
We're
than
not
anything else.
quite to because we have, like, yeah, like you said, we have the New Republic, but we don't quite
Right.
yet have like the First Order and the Resistance now. So
Right.
I assume we're starting to see remnants of that pop up with. I mean, I know I'm jumping around, but like the way the last one just ended, I'm like, oh, I think
They're definitely laying seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're getting
sure.
to that point, which is pretty cool to see, honestly.
I actually think that's kind of a lead into what we would end up getting in the newer trilogy. We'll talk about that in a second, though, because
Yeah.
it might be getting a little too far ahead. But there's a lot of things that I'm kind of looking at it. I'm like, wait a minute, I've got some unanswered questions from this newest trilogy. Like, how did certain things happen? They're starting to kind of lay the groundwork for how they even got to that point.
yeah.
So they're bringing things about the prequels. They're kind of a really big one in this last episode. They're bringing in some narrative things about the prequels, obviously some things about the original trilogy, and they're even kind of working their way up to kind of putting the pawns and the pieces on the board in place for what we would eventually get in the newer trilogy. So they're doing a good job of working kind of all that stuff into this, even a little bit into like Boba Fett, not so much into the Obi-Wan series because it takes place so far before everything. But yeah, but it's really interesting how they're putting all this stuff together. But one of the things that was significant to Bo-Katan, and I think it's had a big impact over these last couple episodes, is after they take care of those TIE interceptors, after this dogfight, the only thing they can do is watch while these bombers cruise by and take out her castle, her home, which was kind of like the one last thing that she has left about her being kind of Mandalorian royalty. It's kind of the last thing that she's been holding on to about all this. That obviously has a pretty big effect on her. Jay, I mean, am I wrong, or is she still up to something? Because I still think she has an ulterior motive, but it's clear that things have changed for her.
Well, again, like I said, if you just came face to face with God, I mean, you'd be a little shaken up too. Yeah, it's still. Remember, she's still having this kind of this resentment towards everything that, like, well, she lost her home, she lost her whole livelihood, her whole world, being the royalty to Mandalore as she was. And, you're just sitting on a throne of just ruins, right? And you're just holding on to whatever you have left. And she doesn't even have the Darksaber, which, she still wants to be that leader of Mandalore. But you can't do that when you don't have the talkie stick. The little swishy talkie stick. Wave it around, they'll all follow, as she said. And then knowing that even though she got to find out that, oh, Mandalore is actually not, toxic. It's not a poisoned environment. It's, it's still there, but obviously in ruins. But then again, now you just lost, the last bit of your home. It's like, well, now what do you do? Now you're just kind of underground with the rest of them. They were literally underground. They were in the sewers hiding on Navarro. So, and now it's like, well, now what do? You got to kind of have to start from the bottom again. Maybe she has a little bit of hope, being that, like, oh, the planet's still there. Everything is still, it would be a big job, but it could be salvageable. So, and as the last 3 episodes we've watched, I was wondering if maybe that's where we're going, because I'm like, that'd be kind of cool to see them try to rebuild everything, at least to some remnant of that former glory. So,
well, yeah, I mean, when you look at with them taking, I mean, like y'all said, the last piece of her elite level status, the last thing that she had, and seeing the Mythosaurus or whatever, it, obviously we've watched 3 episodes here, so we know they're trying to reunite all Mandalorians, right? Well, what better way to, kind of humble herself a little bit, that take all her crap away, and then she realizes, oh, we all got to pull together or we're all dead. We may all be a little bit different here, but we're all worshiping the same thing that I may or may not have just saw. Which when they obviously we know she saw what she did, but I couldn't help but wonder how much doubt was in her own head of did I actually see that? Like whenever she's talking to the
Armor.
the armorer, yeah.
Mhm.
The way that Katie Sackhoff did that line, you could feel the self-doubt. Like, did I or did I not see that? Like, she wasn't completely confident in the way that she spoke. And for me, right. I mean, that's why, like it would be like if you saw a ghost or something and you talk to your friend about it, you would kind of say it like half jokingly just in case they thought you were crazy. So you would kind of have an out or whatever. But, I mean, with everything going on with the Mandalorians and the New Republic, and now we've got Empire people showing up, blowing up houses and stuff. Everything's in a time of flux. I would hate to live in the Star Wars world because you never stop being in war. I mean, it's even worse than in real life. It seems like somehow
there's always a new title right there.
Right. There's always a new uprising. As soon as one ends, there's 3 more just waiting to take over.
And then there's pirates space pirates.
Right. And now there's Swamp Thing's uncle is a pirate now. Honestly, and
he looked like someone glued a bunch of like cilantro to his face, but I'm not gonna lie.
He looks he looks like Old Man Swamp Thing. That's what he looks like. That's what his official name is, by the way. So yeah. But it was, I mean, with this whole Mandalorian stuff, I mean, with Boca, she obviously believes in the Mandalorian way, but it's like when you've been to church, but you're kind of out of it for 10 years, and then you go back, you kind of got to get rebaptized into it. You question, how do I feel about the beliefs that I used to have? So it was kind of fun how they're doing her character this season. I liked it.
Yeah, I'm still curious as to what her motives are, because I feel like this may be a deviation from what she wants, but it's because she spent too long in the last 2 seasons wanting to get her hands on the Darksaber, because she feels like she's the rightful ruler.
I still think she wants control and power of all of it. I still think at the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to.
I think she's questioning a lot of things right now, but ultimately, I think it's going to end up with her trying to make a play for the Darksaber and make a play to be the ruler of all things Mandalore. I just don't know what this little hiccup along the way means. I feel like maybe seeing a mythosaur is going to
play your cards right.
I feel like seeing the mythosaur at some point, she's going to start seeing it as some divine sign that she is supposed to be the one who runs Mandalore. And not just that she feels like she's got it by birthright, but now she's going to have there's going to be some spiritual component to her.
Well, and
think about it. Well, I mean, in one scene, she's Grogu's mom. In the next one, she's the leader of the Mandalorians. In the next scene, she's seeing mythosauruses. I mean, they're really throwing a lot at her character this season. So, I mean, if you had that much going for you as well, you're going to be in a state of flux. You're not really going to know what to do. You know what I mean?
And like I said, we saw her handle that Darksaber like it was nothing, right? When she saved Din Djarin from that cave when they first got to Mandalore, it's like, yeah, it's like a weird, you have to believe in yourself and have some sort of training too, but also you can just be good at it, and she is just good at it because, I mean, she is royalty. That's why she handled that thing like it weighed nothing. So if that's not, here's your signs. Like, again, she saw a mythosaur, she can handle the saber, and although she's sitting on a throne with no one to lead, but maybe this is like Frank said, like now, because when she seemed to have been told, like, oh, guess what, you're, when they went to go save Paz Vizsla's son, you're the one leading. Okay, you get the honor of sitting by the fire. You get to be the one. Now you walk both paths, and you kind of see her going like, yeah, I'm the best hot shit there ever was ever. I'm like, okay, now you're starting to annoy me a little bit again. I kind of felt for you. I kind of, because I was kind of on the side of like, fuck you, you whiny princess. I'm with Boba Fett. Like when he got in her face, like, you better watch your mouth, princess. I'm like, yeah, you better watch who the hell you're talking to, for one thing. But then I kind of felt for her. But now I'm like, oh, now you're getting your little fucking like, oh, I'm the best thing that's ever happened to anything. I'm like, okay, calm down.
Yeah, but whenever you see her, like, when it's time for Grogu to go train with that other foundling or whatever, and she's like, oh well, he's too small, he's not ready, and she's like, being like a mom dropping her kid off in kindergarten for the first day or something.
Right.
I mean, it's a complete range of emotions of a character that they're showing.
I mean, she even told him like, it's okay. My dad was the same way. I was like,
right.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That's something a mom says to a 5-year-old when it's the first time to go to school. You know what I mean? So they can go a lot of ways with this character. I mean, it's very entertaining, but I think ultimately her greed will take over. But I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I did misspeak earlier. I think I said Mythosaurus. It's Mythosaur. Yeah, so no S at the end. Leave it up to the dinosaur expert to call it.
From the Dino Man himself.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not totally convinced that Disney hasn't bought the rights to Jurassic World, and that's what they're living on at this point. I'm just saying, there's too many of these things everywhere. So, yeah, I'm not sure they didn't acquire this and just not tell anybody.
I mean, they fought a dragon, so that was kind of cool. Or whatever that was. Yeah, space dragon.
Right.
But something else that comes up with this episode is we kind of get taken back to the very beginning of this series when we get reintroduced to Dr. Pershing, played by Omid Abtahi. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong. I'm very sorry. But the guy who was after Grogu in the very beginning of this whole thing from Chapter 1 has now been apparently the New World Order, whatever the hell it's called, the New Order.
The New Republic?
New Republic, right? Well, same thing. I mean,
Oh.
the New Republic it all eventually turns evil again and turns into the first galactic order or whatever the hell it ends up being. But he's apparently been captured or whatever, apprehended by the good guys who ended up winning, and along with a bunch of other people, they're trying to set them on the straight path. They're trying to give them a new life in this new Empire-free world. So we do see him giving like a little TED talk about what he was doing for the Empire, what his work really is, gene splicing, stuff like that, cloning to use kind of like the term I guess is most understandable to us. And it kind of gives me an idea that we're heading towards what we'd eventually get in the newer trilogy, because essentially what brought Palpatine back was some cloning technology, and it looks like they're laying the groundwork for that story in this with him. I don't know. I'll go to you first, Tex. I mean, was that something that popped into your head? Because as I was watching that episode, I'm like, I feel like this is the first couple of steps to what we would end up getting with Palpatine.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan in the world, but obviously anybody who knows enough to know this is where that story ends up, and it ties. Let's see, it was episode 2 where they go to Camino and they see the cloners and they do all that, right? That was episode. Yeah. So I mean, I think they even named
guy for the first time.
I think they even named yeah, you see him as a kid, and you get to see Jango Fett in that movie. Yeah. But I think they even name dropped the Camino people or aliens or whatever the crap they are.
Yeah, he does say something about they should be rewarded for their work, their effort, or something like that. He talks about it early on. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the Easter eggs and the name drops from the entire series in this show is just incredible. But I thought the guy acted well in this role. Just once the dog fight was over, this episode really dropped off for me. You could tell that they spent a whole lot of money on that first part of this episode, and the rest of it really felt like filler and setting up other things. But I mean, as far as the cloning stuff goes, of course we had the clone troops, we had the Palpatine. I believe I read somewhere, I think it's in legend books where they even had like a clone Luke Skywalker at some point, but that's obviously not canon, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff, whatever. But I mean, yeah, this, with, the Emperor Palpatine coming back for episode 9 or whatever the crap that Rise of Skywalker nonsense was, this is where that story starts. This is, he's questioning the authority. He wants to serve the New Republic. He wants to be good. And, then you have that little devil on his shoulder with that character they had in this show here, which she's not very good at playing nice guy. You could tell what she was doing the whole time, by the way. But it was, where this cloning thing goes. I'm curious to see how much do they tie to that newer trilogy, knowing it wasn't as popular as other Star Wars was. That's what I am curious about.
Well, I mean, there's certain story aspects of it that would make a lot of sense for them to cover. I mean, look, nothing was going to be as good as the original trilogy. I don't.
No, of course not.
I think that anybody with two brain cells that can work together would understand that. I mean, creatively, they were going to have to be different. I mean, you didn't want to make something that was straight out of the 70s. You wanted to make something more modern. And I've even come to appreciate the prequel trilogy a little more as kind of a Darth Vader origin story.
I love the prequels. The prequels are my favorite Star Wars to this day.
Even though I think they're very lacking, and I think even George Lucas would say, yeah, I probably should have held out and waited to find somebody else to direct it. I mean, there's still elements of the prequel trilogy that I think are very good. But yeah, it's how they're pulling from all this different stuff is very interesting to me. We also get interested to another pretty interesting character who I think might be the key to this entire season, and that's Elia Kane. Is that her name? Elia? I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's
the last name was Kane, but yeah.
Her name is even kind of, it's got me looking out of the side of my eye at her like a whole lot. I'm like, this is me not trusting you, bitch. Because for one, when he's in there doing his little TED talk, she goes into one of those little pods that they all sit in, and she sits down, and obviously the way that the camera focuses on her, she's pretty important. But I'm kind of wondering exactly what she's there for. I feel like she's a plant. Like, she's not necessarily somebody who's getting this amnesty because she wants to or because they're giving her the shot. Like somebody maybe even Palpatine or somebody working on behalf of him to get him cloned and brought back to life is saying, we want you to go ahead and go undercover as one of these amnesty people, and we're gonna see if we can get you to be our guy on the inside. And because that's really what she's acting like to me. The first thing is, I don't know if you guys noticed when Pershing is walking up to that picnic table with the 4 other people around it. Like, all the people turn to look at him real quick and start talking to him, and she doesn't immediately turn, kind of like she's trying to play cool. It isn't until he walks up on the table and the camera pans around that she turns her head up, and you finally realize that that's her. So it seems to me like she's not really there because she wants to be. It seems to be, I don't know, Jeremy, is that the impression that you're getting? Because she's definitely crooked.
Yeah, there's no amount of you trying to play it off that I don't for a second believe that you'd stab somebody in the back for your own game, which, I mean, spoiler, I mean, holy crap, it happened. And I was like, no, I'm so surprised. And I know it's like, yeah, you try to spend a whole episode them eating some weird, glowy space ice cream and taking a walk through town and
yellow bread. Whatever,
and genuinely trying to be like, oh, maybe you should do this, but I'm like, yeah, but you're that friend who's like, maybe you should do it. You should, and hey, I could help you out. I'm like, yeah, no, there's no way. I don't think you're really there to try and actually do good. I believed Dr. Pershing more than I believe her. I'm like, I feel like he genuinely is conflicted, but he's like, I still want to do this. I still have this knowledge that I want to do, and it's like, you're trying to do the wrong thing for the right reasons, or ethically maybe the wrong thing.
He kind of felt to me like he was a Dr. Frankenstein character. Like, he has the capability, but should he use it? That's where the conflict comes into play.
Yeah, and it's like you see him kind of question it, like every what at the end of every week, I'd be like, do you feel any feelings towards your coworkers? No. Do you feel like you want to shoot her by in the office? No.
Shit. If I had to sit there that on a weekly basis, I'd snap too. I'd tear that robot's freaking head off, dude.
I'd be so annoyed, man. I don't want to deal with that every damn, or however many times he has to go through that. But like you said, I don't. She's there for some ulterior motive, which being people that kind of came back from the beginning, I'm like, where's Moff Gideon been? I know we're going to talk about that here in a second, but I'm like, you're still here. You got to be. There's no way.
Right.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of biblical symbology kind of happening all at once here. For one, there's like the whole cloning aspect, and the religious people don't like cloning because they say it's playing God and all that. I mean, whatever your point of view on that may be, I don't really know. It's not what we're talking about. But even in Elijah Cain's name, it's like, for one, Lia is like a another form of liar. I remember reading somewhere in some kind of speech stuff. I don't know. But even Cain, to me, means it's spelled K-A-N-E, but you could spell it C-A-N-E. That's a direct reference to Cain and Abel. Cain, who betrayed and killed his brother Abel in the Bible. There's a lot of biblical kind of interesting wordplay going on here, kind of comparing it to that whole thing, and the fact that we see, like, and in this episode, it's pretty clear to me that he wants to do good. I think if he wanted to do something for the sake of evil, like say Percy was the one still working for Moff Gideon, and that his whole plan is to do some cloning shit that's going to help bring the Emperor back. If that were the case, I don't think he'd be wanting to try to play within the rules. I don't think he would have gone to the New Republic in the first place and said, "Hey, I want to try to use my work to work for you guys and do some good for you guys. Can I do that?" I think he would have just done some shady shit on his own from the very beginning. So I think it's interesting that she kind of plays it. She honeypots him. It's kind of what she does. It's like she goes up there. They have the whole thing where they're eating those weird glowing ice cream cones, and they're walking around, and they're having their little first date scene going on, and she's getting him to open up about how he wants to still do good. It's like that, and you can tell just by the look at her face that that's like her thinking to herself, "Okay, this is the crack in the armor. This is where I'm going to exploit this guy." So I'm gonna say, "Hey, why don't we go to this place where I know there's a bunch of old Empire tech, and you can get the shit that you need to keep doing good, and we just won't tell anybody." Blah blah blah.
Right.
And of course, it doesn't work out the way that they plan. Now, obviously, she plants the seed in his head, and he decides that he wants to he wants to go ahead and go with her to this place where they're decommissioning not only the Resistance fleet that we had seen in the original trilogy, but also a lot of the Imperial cruisers and stuff like that. So a lot of the lab equipment that he would need or that he had used previously is going to be available if they go there, but they have to go outside where they're allowed to go. And of course, she convinces him to go on this little excursion to where he can get a bunch of his lab equipment. And look, to me, I was wondering if she had obviously already been there. I know they mentioned that she had been there once or twice before. They mentioned that's how she got the biscuits and things like that. But I feel like this whole thing was set up by her. Like,
100%.
Yeah.
Like getting him caught for a reason. It wasn't just like, because the way they tried to play it out, it's like she kind of like turned him in or turned on him a little bit to kind of save her own ass. Because it sounds like she was trying to bait him with their knowledge, and I don't know if that's entirely true, but maybe, I don't know, because he's the only one that gets the Mind Flayer device. Not the Mind Flayer that we were used to talking about with the Stranger Things.
This isn't a Stranger Things.
As soon as they said Mind Flayer, I'm like, damn it. Wrong show.
There are two Mind Flayers on streaming platforms now. But but so this whole Mind Flayer mind device thing they've got him in, which is basically a torture device that was used by the Empire, and is now being used at a lower level, a lesser level by the new Republic.
Well,
to kind of help clear the mind of these people that they've got.
It's their version of shock treatment, is what it is. I mean, if
like a lobotomy.
If you get to, it's a lobotomy. It's a shock treatment. It's just the Star Wars version with lasers and it's a little bit prettier.
I was actually seeing the scenes in Clockwork Orange where Alex is tied down and they've got his eyes open. That's kind of what I was thinking, because you can see when he's got the headset on, it's playing these things in the screens that are in his goggles. I just think it was like a futuristic version, a higher tech version of what Alex went through in Clockwork Orange.
Well,
it was almost like
not even just that, but you could also tie in 1984. He's living in that basically internment camp where everybody has to wear the scarlet letter or the pin on their shirt. They all have the same uniform. If they get out of line, they're brainwashed and sent back to re-education camp. It's very Nazi-ish, very 1984, very Clockwork. I mean, there's a lot of things that are put into play with this. It's deeper than some might think it is, but I mean, there's layers to this stuff. I mean, the way they present the term I'm looking for is a moral relativism. Like, where you can sit there kind of question your motives, and you can kind of talk your way into doing something bad for good reasons, even though you shouldn't be doing it. And, a lot of this episode was the devil sitting on your shoulder telling you, oh, well, you're not doing it a bad thing. You're just doing something kind of naughty for the good side or whatever. But as with, how many times have we seen that leads down the dark path or whatever? So, I mean, but no, I wouldn't trust her with 2 cents, much less anything else. She was obviously, I don't know if they told her to not hide it with her acting, but you could tell that she's still working for, well, I mean, I'm just guessing, but she's still working for Moff Gideon. I mean, and we obviously see, some more about what happened to him in a couple episodes here we're going to talk about, but it may be the Emperor ultimately they're working for, but I think her direct boss is still Moff Gideon. But that's just me. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think after the last episode, we've made pretty clear that Moff Gideon is still very much a
Right.
factor in some of the things that are happening. But one of the things that happens at the very end of the episode, I think is interesting, is like she tells the guy who's watching this mind flayer thing do its thing. She's like, "You go ahead and go. I'll watch him." And then as the guy leaves the room, she doesn't keep it as like a moderate like 1 or 2 on the dial. She
Turns
cranks
that
thing
bitch
up
to 11.
Yeah, she cranked it to 11 and broke the knob off. Yeah.
And it's really odd. It's like without being, because normally you would think that people would do something like that and they would watch the results of it out of curiosity. She flips it up there and then she just nonchalantly gets one of the red biscuits he talks about. She likes the red ones, whereas what's his name likes the white or the yellow.
You like the yellow ones.
The yellow ones.
Yeah.
It's even that is kind of an indication as to something about her character. Because did you notice that like when they were walking around eating their glowing ice creams, he was eating the blue one and she was eating the red one?
Right.
I think there's something.
There were subtle little hints, yeah.
Yeah, because red is like the color of evil in movies. So
Yeah,
I feel like that's kind of a slight visual cue to let you know that she is not really what she.
Well, she even tried to tempt him into touching the top of that mountain on Coruscant, when she knew that he wasn't supposed to. Even with that subtle little act, even though they play it off as a joke, it's still the same thing, what I mean?
Yeah, and the fact that she sat there and just kind of like snacking that thing like she was watching her favorite TV show or whatever, while it was doing God knows what to this guy's brain, and was just snacking the thing, just watching almost with excitement, if not with excitement, with ease.
I think that was her favorite channel. Like
me.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, did anyone catch that the fact that the person, it's just weird watching how calmly they talk, like, you'll be okay. The little non-calamari guy who looks like, Admiral Akbar, and when he's trying to explain to him, like, no, he's like, I got there and it was a trap. I'm like, oh, fuck you.
So whenever he said it's a trap,
He's like, it was a trap. I'm like, damn it.
I marked out whenever they said that. I did enjoy that. I did the whole he said it thing, like DiCaprio.
I love how when he said it, the Mon Calamari guy just looked at him like the reference was completely lost on him. He's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, that was an interesting episode. Again, it is not the most exciting episode. It was a little bit of a great deal of action right at the jump, but then just a lot of really deep, like almost kind of a whodunit. It really deepens the mystery as to who these people are, which I thought was very, very interesting.
I think, like you said, I'm surprisingly, I didn't even catch it. I didn't even think about that. Like, this could be timeline wise. This could be like that weird setup for how we get the whole bringing Palpatine back as some weird mangled clone or whatever the hell, being that he was a force user, a particularly strong force user. Maybe that is why they wanted Grogu, because he seems to be pretty gifted as well. Maybe this is them trying to alleviate the goofiest fucking line of somehow Palpatine returned. I'm like, that's what we're going with? Okay. I understand some, regular non-force sensitive human pilot like Poe Dameron wouldn't understand how that. I mean, I wouldn't understand how the hell he came back either. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know, he's back, sure. But maybe this is that setup of trying to make that seem less stupid. But I don't know.
At least at least the technical aspects of it all kind of make it make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're trying to alleviate the ridiculous.
They could have explained a lot of that in the new trilogy and maybe not have been so hated.
They could have done a lot of things and they didn't. So.
I mean, credit to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni for trying to fix it's like everybody else got the house built, right? But it's like leaning sideways and there's holes in the roof and it's not done. They're trying to fix everybody else's mistakes. And, I mean, they're doing well with a lot of things. So if they can fix the whole Palpatine, how he just shows back up, I mean, kudos to them. They deserve all the credit.
Favreau and Filoni are coming in like fucking Bob Vila and Norm Abram, and they're like, we're going to fix it.
Yeah, they're coming in like, we're just going to bulldoze this whole section. We're rebuilding. You just go along for the ride.
We're the property brothers now.
Y'all screwed this up, and now you get to see how it's supposed to be done. So,
I'm still mad. They're like, here's this very, very important lightsaber. And Han Solo's like, how'd you get that? She's like, that's a good question. And we're never going to answer it. I'm like, at least answer it a little bit.
Hey, I mean, J.J. Abrams is real good at asking questions, but he doesn't know the answer to them a lot of times. And that showed with his Star Wars. So,
how do we get from some hole in Cloud City to Maz Kanata? And I mean, I could believe a little more that somehow Vader's grandson got a hold of his helmet, which was last we saw burning on Endor. And I'm like, okay, but when did you do that? Huh? How? What? But nostalgia plays.
He still hasn't given us any indication as to where the Cloverfield monster came from. And that was more than a decade ago. So,
that's what I mean. Do I need to bring up how they ended Lost? I mean, he had no idea how to end that whole show, too. I'm just saying. So,
very true.
Yeah.
But now we'll move on to episode 4. There's really two big things in episode 4 that require a lot of discussion.
This is my favorite episode of the season, by the way. I love this episode.
I can't argue that. This one was a bit of a bang.
Yeah.
This hits you with a couple of jaw droppers. Let's first talk about the rescue of Ragnar, the little boy from the Shriek Hawk. That whole scene was kind of interesting because, look, I had asked after episode 2, I was like, so is this what we're getting now? Is we're not getting Din Djarin as protecting the boy and having to deliver him to the Jedi. Now Grogu is he now a full-on apprentice of a Mandalorian? Are they going to make him a Mandalorian?
He's the foundling, yeah.
Which would be interesting. And this episode kind of answers that question, as he flat out says, and even Bo-Katan kind of questions this. He goes, if he's going to learn our ways, he has to start doing the work like right now. So they kind of put him in for a little bit of a paintball dueling match with one of the other
paintball dueling match.
As soon as he got tagged, I'm like, oh, this is just paintball. Somebody market those now, like little wrist paintballs. I'd love it.
And I think it's clear.
They're probably in Walmart already.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, I think it's clear now that they are going to try to make a Mandalorian bounty hunter out of him, which I think is dope as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see all the Mandalorians, they're all like, big, tall, humanoid guys, kind of burly. But it's like now all of a sudden we're gonna have this little teeny tiny Grogu who's gonna be rolling around with a Mandalorian helmet and Beskar armor, which he's already got a couple pieces of now.
So
we're gonna see him putting in work, and it's like a force-sensitive Mandalorian bounty hunter. Boy, if that's somebody you don't want to fuck with, like ever.
Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean that whole sequence was very interesting to me because that answered the question that I had is, are we going to see him giving him full training? And it looks like we really are. I mean, Jeremy, what do you think of the idea of Grogu becoming a full-fledged Mandalorian bounty hunter?
Holy crap! Given how long, my only thing though is given how long that species seems to live. I mean, you're gonna be training him for a while, and he's not going to age. He's maybe going to gain an inch in like another 50 years. So that's pretty cool. Even it's like you almost kind of feel like he does on some level understand, at least like Bo-Katan and Din Djarin, maybe some of the other people. Because I mean, when Din Djarin was caught, he was like, "Go get Bo-Katan," and he immediately jumped into action. He knew what to do. So he at least kind of understands what he's doing. I mean, you saw him do the sick flips and shit, and just
I think he spoke in that last episode. We didn't bring it up, but whenever Dan, Boca, and him are leaving the planet, when Dan and Boca both say this is the way, he mouths those words, do y'all think he actually spoke right there?
I think he may have tried to.
That'd be cool if that was like the first thing he said.
I think because I mean he says like the amount of words that it would be for "this is the way." If you like, you go back and listen to it. I think they laid a little legwork there on that deal.
Or is the speech pattern of him kind of the same as Yoda? Is that something?
Yeah,
it may be. I don't know. I mean,
saying this is the way. It's like the way this is, or something like that.
Right.
that'd be sweet.
That'd be kind of cool.
I think his little insignia with also has the mud horn on his chest is absolutely adorable. It's like the size of his whole body.
Basically, like whole armor plate that would go.
Yeah, it's like the size of his whole chest. But it's cool that it's got the same insignia of Din Djarin, so that's pretty cool. I mean, that's you know. So
that's because in was it last season when he was fighting that Mudhorn Rhino thing? That's why they have that one.
Yeah, because that's what he fought. But then he also ended up saving him.
Din.
Yeah, he ended up saving him from that encounter. So that's pretty sweet. Did you notice on the back of that piece of armor, it looked like it had some electronic like hardware or something on it? It wasn't just a piece of metal.
Yeah,
it looked like some sort of I mean, I don't know how it attaches to his.
I assumed that was to attach to the stuff that he was wearing already, but I didn't know.
But it almost looked like it was some sort of like
it looked like circuitry of some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it does something cool. Maybe it's like a little Captain America shield for him. He just holds it up, or he just throws it with the Force. I don't know.
That'd be kind of cool.
Knock somebody out.
You know, Disney's going to pull that crap. They're going to have the baby Yoda with Captain America shield, Star Wars. You know, they're going to make that toy.
No, they're going to do the Avengers thing. He's gonna do like when he grabs Mjolnir, he pulls up the little.
All this I can do all day or whatever. He's gonna do some weird Captain America line and throw that thing off of his chest. It's gonna happen. Just wait. It's coming, people. My Lord.
I'm waiting for somebody to make that supercut and put it on YouTube.
All this all day.
Someone's gonna.
I can do, or however he's gonna say it. You know, he's gonna mix it up and yeah.
We're going to see him do it. We're going to cut to that scene from Free Guy where you can see Chris Evans go, "What the shit?" looking at his phone.
But yeah, obviously after this little training montage of him taking out the other little youngling, the other foundling who's in training, the kid wanders off down the beach contemplating his defeat to the hands of this 1 foot tall little Yoda, and he gets taken by what is being called a Shrek Hawk. I don't think they officially called it that in the thing. I think that's something that the internet has been calling it. But it's basically like a giant cross between a dragon and a pterodactyl or something like that. I'm not 100% sure exactly what it is. I'm going to call it
Shrek food Hawk. Now. It's dead.
I'm going to call it a Shrek Hawk because that sounds really cool. Yeah. But it does go down and scoops up this kid, Ragnar, after he gets defeated by Grogu, and that leads to a whole new thing. You see these guys chase after them with their jetpacks. Their jetpacks obviously run out of gas. They don't have that kind of perpetual power supply like Tony Stark has with his suits and all that. And while most of them are like, Jesus Christ, every time this happens, they always get away. We don't have no gas to follow. And that's when Bo-Katan kind of uses a little bit of ingenuity. She's like, why am I going to fly after this damn thing with my jetpack when my ship is right here?
I got a ship.
I got to do it with my ship real quick and follow the guy. But again, I don't know if she was doing this because she was trying to curry favor or because she's actually trying to do the right thing. We're going to get that answer eventually at some point this season, I'm sure. But it does lead to this pretty wild rescue attempt where they climb up on top of this tall mountain, or it's not a stalactite, I forget what they're called, but like this tall cylindrical rock formation where
Spire.
Where this Shrek Hawk is nested and has apparently taken other younglings that it is captured up there to eat, because it was a really kind of a sad thing. Like when you first come over the crest of the nest,
there's a helmet,
and
there's a helmet laying there in the front of the
kid that obviously had been dinner beforehand. But they roll up on here and they go to rescue this thing, and obviously it shows back up. It spits out the kid Ragnar, which I thought was kind of funny. I was like, so you're keeping the kid in your stomach, which is weird, and then you barf the kid back up, like most birds do. So whatever. I mean, technically it worked.
Well, I mean, we did see Boba Fett sit inside the stomach of the Sarlacc pit, and his armor protected him. So maybe the armor protected the kid. I don't know.
Maybe he doesn't have armor though. He doesn't have any Beskar armor yet.
Well, he's got the helmet.
All he's got is the helmet. He doesn't have the thing.
Yeah, all he had was like a proto. It wasn't even like a full-fledged helmet. It was like a prototype helmet or something. It looked like.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. It's space stuff. I don't know.
But whatever. It was
It was a little goofy.
Yeah, that whole thing was almost as fun to watch as the dogfight from the beginning of the last episode. Yeah. It's like when they go ahead and they get into like an aerial combat with this giant pterodactyl / dinosaur thing, and you see something interesting that happens. It takes a whack up in the air at Bo-Katan and knocks off a big piece of her armor, of her shoulder armor. And then obviously, Din Djarin and the rest of the gang, they all come in and do a bunch of shit to take the Shrek Hawk down. It lands in the water when it's struggling. Din Djarin had shot like some kind of a bolo or something around one of its wings, so its wing wouldn't flap quite right, so it falls in the water. And then, of course, on cue, there's always a bigger fish.
There's always a bigger fish.
Said in one of these movies.
Life found a way, I guess you could say.
Giant dinosaur alligator came up out of nowhere. It was like chomp.
That was very Jurassic World.
Very Jurassic World. Yeah, I know. I was actually thinking of Broody Gamer as I was watching that scene. It was like that shark toy been eating the pterodactyl or the that wasn't the pterodactyl. I forget what it was.
It ate a pterodactyl, but it also ate the Indominus.
The great white shark too. The great white shark too.
Right.
At the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Very, very reminiscent of that scene, watching come out of the water, just like snap it right out of the right off the surface. But that was pretty cool. And then obviously back to their hideout, where at this point everybody's pretty sold on the fact that on the idea that Bo-Katan is one of them now. I mean, because watching it, we're kind of like, is she really one of them? Is she playing something? I mean, what is this all about? Because I thought maybe it was just coincidence she hadn't taken her helmet off since bathing in the waters of Mandalore. Like maybe she just hadn't had a reason yet. But when she has that conversation with the armor, she's like, you bathe in the waters. Have you taken your helmet off yet? She goes, no. And she goes, well, now you're one of us. And it's like,
you accidentally join a cult.
She's like, damn. You think at that point that she might have been like, look, I appreciate the sentiment, but I'm not one of you. I don't really dig the way you guys do things. Because in prior seasons, she's had this conversation with Din Djarin saying, you guys are some ultra like stuck up sect of Mandalorian.
They're like the Catholics.
The religion. Yeah, they're like the super Catholics of the Mandalorian religion, where we're a little bit more laid back. We'll take our helmets off. We don't care as long as we do what we do. And the fact that she kind of went along with it so easily, I thought was odd. And at first, I'm kind of like, I feel like she's working an angle here. Maybe not that did she arrange all these things to happen, but maybe she's seeing an opportunity. And she's like, I'm going to exploit this opportunity because it's in front of me. And that to me, I was kind of like, well, whatever. But
even before that, Din Djarin told her before they went there, he's like, look, just trust me. Keep your helmet on because it's going to be a lot smoother going in there. Because they may not have even let her in there to begin with. And they're like, who is this? And why does she have her helmet off? So she, even before they went there, was like, yeah, maybe I should listen to what he has to say and keep this thing on. So,
well, that she's a tactician too. I mean, she knows damn well that she's outnumbered by a lot. So going in there and ruffling feathers, knowing that she doesn't have any real friends, even Din Djarin would probably be kind of like, she gave me a ride. I don't really know her. We're not really cool. You know what I mean? But but even then, even if Din Djarin would have sided with her, I mean, it would have been 2 against more than 2. So she would have known that she was terribly outmanned and outgunned. So he's got
the glowy stick. So
yeah, he does have the darksaber. But while they're gone doing this, obviously they leave Grogu back with the armor, and this is when they get one of the more interesting flashbacks in all of Star Wars history.
This made the episode right here.
There's a whole lot to happen. Yeah. Now, for one, Jeremy, I don't know if you caught this or not. Grogu's flashback mirrors a flashback that Din Djarin had back in season 1 when he was
hiding.
Yeah. It was very reminiscent of his flashback. Mm-hmm. So now we're kind of putting Grogu in the young Din Djarin's kind of shoes, in his perspective, as he's kind of like beginning his journey as a foundling trainee to eventually become a Mandalorian. But we've asked the question a million times. A lot of people have. Where was Grogu when Order 66 went down? Was there
in the worst place possible?
Was he just not found by the Jedi yet? Was he smuggled out by somebody? Was he? I mean, what was the deal? Did Anakin just miss him? I mean, what happened? Did he play dead? Now
he was too busy with the other kids,
Yeah, now we find out that he actually was there on Coruscant when Order 66 went down, and he was saved not even by one Jedi, who we'll talk about the one Jedi who really stands out, but he was basically, it's like a team of something that felt like 10 or 15 Jedis fought just to get him out, which is interesting to me. Is there something special about Grogu that we didn't realize before? Because I feel like he wasn't in there with the rest of the Padawans, the rest of the younglings.
Those look like older Jedi. Like
I feel like he was segregated for one reason or another. Like there's something about him. Maybe it's because he's the same race as Yoda, and maybe that race is more. Maybe their force sensitivity is a lot higher from birth than any other being. That's a theory that I've read out there. I'm not entirely sure if it's true or not, but it's clear that he is kept away from the rest of the younglings. And on top of that, it wasn't like they were all just fighting Anakin or fighting the stormtroopers that were rolling through there to kill the Jedi. They were specifically there to try to protect him or get him out. Yeah. I mean, did you get that too, Jay? Because it was odd that the one youngling garners this level of protection. But he does say at some point that he's the last one. There's nobody left. So maybe they're just like, if we can only save one, this is the guy. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about why he was the one that got away?
Yeah, because that visual of like, even from like Grogu's point of view, where he just looks out like down this hallway, and there's like you said, like 7, 8 Jedi all just turned to that door, and they're all just protecting him, and they're like, you got to keep him alive. I know when we talking about canon and things that are, it's as cool as this is, and as much as we flash back to the Night of the Purge, as much as we fucking visit Tatooine on this damn series, as fun as it is, I'm kind of like, okay, but now you still would kind of had to have explained that this being is as important as he is, and he existed in the prequel trilogies. Like you said, maybe there was some reason why we didn't hear about it, or he was cut off, or kept in some special part of the Jedi Temple where we didn't hear about it, because you'd think someone else that was the same race as Yoda, who is just as important, seemingly as important, would maybe garner some conversation, but that never happened until now, because the only people we know of that are like Yoda are himself, Yaddle, and then whoever that one weird like orange flesh toned whatever the hell that looks similar to him. I don't remember his name. He has a name. But yeah, and with the Empire wanting to get a hold of him too, it's like this child is pretty important, and again, it's enough to have like a whole small faction of Jedi. And like you said, and they weren't even just younglings; they were maybe not quite Jedi Knights yet, but they were older Jedi that were protecting him. So there's still something pretty important about this kid.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that he's not a clone of Yoda. With as much as they're talking about cloning, especially in this season of this show, and then to show him being held by himself away from the other younglings by that many Jedi, knowing how important Yoda is, and when you think back to episode 2, he went to Camino. They can very easily tie in that, oh, well, Yoda, gave some of his DNA and they did blah, 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 and whatever. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure Grogu's not a clone of Yoda. I mean,
that's an interesting theory, but I feel like with what the Jedi were at that time, I feel like that's something that they probably wouldn't have done, because that would have been something at the time that would have had to have been approved by the council. And I don't think the council
they were even surprised when they heard about the fact that they had clones in the first place.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, Jedi Master that had been dead 10 years. They're like, wait a minute, this had to have happened before. We know
if they could hide, if Count Dooku could hide that he was, in charge of this whole cloning thing, you could go one of two ways with this. Either Yoda sees the advantages of, oh well, I know how important my blood is, my genes are, my DNA, yada, yada. And he willingly volunteers it, or without knowing it, maybe it's done. Depending how what you want to write the story, you can go either way. But I could see a real possibility that at somewhere down the line, we find out that Grogu is a clone of Yoda.
Well, even when they were trying to find Kamino in the first place, even Yoda didn't even seem to know about it. When Obi-Wan came in there and said, like, well, it should be here. This planet is just gone. But you tell gravity is pulling everything towards this spot. So something's there, and like Yoda's even like, oh well, that's weird. So
yeah, I don't think that Yoda would have willingly given up DNA for cloning. Like Jeremy says, for one, he doesn't even seem to know that there was any cloning going on in the prequel trilogy. So he would have known.
He even told when he was talking to Mace Windu. Yeah, he's like blind. We were blind if we didn't even see this coming. I'm like,
yeah.
Right.
It also seems to me like that's like at a personal level, that's not something Yoda would have done, because Yoda, being kind of the primary Jedi of the vast majority of what we've gotten in the episodic films, that's not. I feel like he would have thought that, you know, that's against the Jedi way. If I'm saying
no, I get what y'all are saying. I'm just saying it's at least it at least has to be added to the list of possibilities.
Oh yeah. Now, and I think it's a possibility that maybe that he somehow unknowingly gave some DNA. Which
that's what I'm saying.
But how do you?
If Count Dooku,
how do you unknowingly get DNA from Yoda, who's like the smartest fucking guy in the entire Star Wars universe?
How could Count Dooku keep it hidden for as long as he did from Yoda? You know, you do it the same way there with one line of dialogue. Oh, well, the blah, blah, blah there was so much going on that the Force was clouded, and Yoda couldn't see that somebody got one hair off the top of his head when he was doing those little flippy tricks one day, and then we cloned to Yoda or whatever. You know,
well, that's what Palpatine was doing. I'm like, the other strongest being would have been like Palpatine, who's sitting 5 feet away from Yoda in that scene. I'm like, he's that powerful that he's clouding these Jedi Masters' visions.
That's what I'm saying.
But they don't even know it's him. I'm like, it's right there, and they don't even know.
Right.
Like,
you know, I mean, I don't know on a scale of 1 to 10 how probable my theory is here, but I think you at least have to include it in the conversation of they're talking about cloning a whole lot. I mean, in episode 3, look at how much time they spent talking about it. I mean, it's been a big thing in Star Wars already, but we've never seen, besides Yaddle, which I'm not even sure how important is Yaddle at this point. We've never seen her again. So, you know, I think it's, you know, worth looking into. You know,
maybe Yoda and Yaddle had a little horizontal bob 50 years ago. I don't know.
Jesus, could you imagine that ugly, that hideous pile on top of one another making Grogu? My God.
I don't know, man.
That
could also be it.
Well, I mean, that's a feasible explanation as to why he even exists, though. I mean,
yeah.
Again, it's not one that fits very well with Yoda's worldview, because he was one of the people telling Anakin not to fall in love, not to worry about Padme. Be like, you got to cut that shit loose, because this is your path to the dark side.
He said,
hard to believe that Yoda would have made that exact same mistake. But then again, the argument can be made. He's like, that Yoda's argument is, hey, dude, I've been there before. He just doesn't say that out loud to Anakin.
He said not to get married. He didn't say go get some side action. You know what I'm saying? Maybe.
Yeah,
you know,
doesn't mean you can't.
He's like, maybe Yoda's okay with hitting it and quitting it and leaving a little something, you know, as a trophy. You know what I mean? But you know,
he's hiding his own illegitimate child inside the Jedi temple.
Maybe you ain't getting child support. I'm gonna hide
Yoda, though. Where else would you hide him? I mean, you see
what I'm saying?
He's that arrogant in the last place you think, which would be the most obvious place.
He goes to the swamp planet so he doesn't have to pay child support. He just hiding out in the trailer park, you know what I mean?
Ran away from his responsibilities.
He lost his job and he's like, shit, I gotta go.
We just took Yoda from the most esteemed Jedi Master to deadbeat dad. I love that we did that. I am proud of that.
It's a possibility, though. So, you know, I don't think that's the way it's going to go. But I don't want to
deadbeat Jedi's. You know, it's going to be a whole thing.
If everybody's a suspect in the Scream movie, then Yoda could be a deadbeat dad. Why not?
There you go. I dig it.
But you know, in the rush to get Grogu saved from Order 66, again, we see a whole team of Jedi trying to get him out. They get him in the elevator, and the last Jedi with him ends up getting shot as the elevator door is closing. And when the elevator gets to where it's going and the door opens up, we don't know what we're going to see at first until we realize that there is a Jedi named Kelleran Beck, who is known mostly in the expanded universe stuff, but more interestingly enough, He is played by Ahmed Best.
The greatest Star Wars character ever.
all of you real Star Wars fans, you didn't know what Ahmed Best is most known for in the Star Wars universe, other than being on that Star Wars themed game show they had on Cartoon Network a couple of years ago. They ended up getting killed because of the pandemic, and they just didn't do it anymore after that. But
I never saw that.
Ahmed Best is the one who played and did the voice for Jar Jar Binks. So essentially, Jar Jar Binks is the one who saved Grogu, which is one of the things that we were hearing whispers about.
Everyone's theory. I'm like, well, now you can say a Jedi. He wasn't a Sith Lord, but he was a Jedi.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. I 100% wanted them to just go ahead and go the route where Jar Jar is the one that saves him. I wanted to put the whole Jar Jar thing to bed for good, because it was like I didn't understand the backlash of the Jar Jar character. Was he the best character in Star Wars history?
I like Jar Jar Binks. I know I'm in the minority, and I'm probably going to get hate mail from it, but I like Jar Jar. I always thought it was funny.
I didn't like Jar Jar necessarily, but I didn't hate him the way that other people hated him. You know
I just found him annoying, but I didn't hate him either. I'm just like, okay.
Well, okay, how can you hate Jar Jar, but you like Yoda from the original trilogy? They're literally the same thing.
I didn't hate Jar Jar, but I didn't love him. I didn't understand a lot of what the character got. I mean, it's like he served a purpose in episode 1, but it was more comedic than it was like. It was made for the kids. It wasn't anything else. Yeah, it was made for toys and marketing and to give you the. He was the levity for all the serious shit that was going on over the course of that movie. And I will always believe in that George Lucas truly planned for him to be the Phantom Menace. That's why that movie was called that. He was Darth Jar Jar. He was the Sith Lord. He was whatever. The theory makes sense to me. Make fun of it what you will, but I think it's legit. So I've always thought that, though. As soon as I saw it presented and with facts added to it, because Count Dooku, he just appears out of nowhere. Like, oh, he wasn't a thing in the last movie, but oh, here he is now. I think the Darth Jar Jar thing was legit. I really, truly do.
Yeah, you had to have legend stuff set up more for Count Dooku's backstory. But
right.
Which I actually did. I did read that, like when he was a kid still, and he was still a Jedi. It was actually really cool.
But that whole sequence with the escape with
that was gnarly,
getting him onto the speeder, which he commandeered from the other two guys that he killed. The whole picking up the lightsaber of the one fallen Jedi in the elevator and dual wielding lightsabers and taking out.
Awesome.
Like he had stormtroopers coming from both sides and was still just working it, doing his. He's obviously a Jedi master. If he should be, if he wasn't already a master.
I think he is, yeah.
But he was obviously
he was working two lightsabers at once. I mean, he was kicking some ass,
He's obviously a very highly trained Jedi, and I wonder if maybe part of his purpose. Look, there was obviously a plan to get Grogu out. I mean, there was too many Jedi that were around him when the ship popped off. The idea of getting him to one specific person, there was a plan to get him out if something happened, and if something happened, they executed that plan, which makes me wonder exactly what Grogu's importance to all this really is. I don't know. Now the Force has a weird way of doing things. I mean, it made Anakin's mother. It gave her divine, immaculate conception.
Space Virgin Mary.
Yeah, she's the Space Virgin Mary. She just one day was pregnant with Anakin. I think the Force has a way of putting people, Force-sensitive people specifically, in certain places to make a difference when the difference needs to be made. And I'm kind of wondering if maybe this kind of isn't going to explain. Like maybe the Force was like, Grogu needs to go be a Mandalorian and not a Jedi Master. He needs to not train with Luke. He needs to make the decision to choose the Mandalorian mesh armor over the lightsaber, and to go join up with Mandalorian again to do that thing. It's like that's part of keeping the balance, because the Force is all about balancing itself out and making sure the universe is in balance. And I'm wondering maybe if this isn't part of kind of the Force trying to keep the balance. It's going to be a different story than what we've got before, but I think it's a very cool story. But obviously, everything with Keller and Beck. I hope this flashback isn't all we see of him. Like I don't know, obviously, what happens.
I think there's more to it.
Yeah, I think there's more to it. Because the last thing we see is like they get on that, which was a Naboo cruiser. It wasn't like a luxury yacht that Padme rolled around in, but it was definitely a Naboo vessel. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "That's a Naboo vessel."
Well, yeah. When he said, "I'm going to a friend," I saw the Naboo cruiser in those Naboo outfits. I'm like, "Wait a minute, is it Padme?"
the Naboo guard. Yeah, I thought it too.
Yeah.
Hey, if they want to bring back Natalie Portman, I'm down with it.
She
I'm cool
wasn't
with that.
queen, but I'm just like, wait a minute, is that her? 'Cause that's
Well,
what-
at that
alright.
point, now remember, this is when everything's going wrong in Revenge of the Sith. So
Yeah.
I doubt.
Oh, yeah. So
Padme-
she would have been
He
on
may have already
husband.
left.
Padme is
Yeah.
in mid-birth probably at this point, and then after
Yeah.
birth she dies. So it's probably not
Yeah.
Padme. It may
Yeah,
be
it's not
somebody else
Padme.
on the movie. But I don't know who else it would be. Anybody that we saw in.
Oh, what was the frog guy on Naboo? What was his name? He was the leader of the Gungan army.
I forget his name, but it could be.
Oh, Boss
The
Nass.
guy that every time he talked to you, he slung his cheeks every time.
Yeah,
he
Boss
talked.
Nass.
Boss Nass, yeah. He can be the guy that saves Grogu. I'm down with that. Bring him back.
Well, we
Possible.
had. Well, no, hold on. We saw at the funeral. It wasn't Queen Jimalea, but there was still a queen from Naboo that was there at Padme's funeral. Maybe
Yeah.
it could have been her.
It could
Yeah.
potentially have been her.
Because you see somebody who is very obviously the queen, the current queen of Naboo, like walking, and then you see like Jar Jar, and then you see like everyone else walking down the ceremony there. So maybe,
Right.
I don't know. Because
I don't know,
I don't know where he. See, then I'm like, well, where did he go after that? Where did Keller and Beck go after that with Grogu? Like, because somehow again we now had to get from there to how this kid got to, that whatever that planet was that Din Djarin found him on with IG-88. So
One thing I did think I thought was really cool was on Killer and Beck's Jedi gear. If you looked around the collar of the shirt like that he had on, it had like gold text or shape. I don't know. I don't know what that was. Maybe it's Jedi writing or whatever. But it had like a trim to it or whatever. I've never seen another Jedi that had anything like that, or even like a Sith. I don't think.
That is interesting. It does have some weird like hieroglyphic or some kind of.
Yeah, I don't know
And then
what
even
that's supposed to be, but it looked really cool.
Underneath that, there's some other kind of pattern too that I couldn't quite tell what it was.
Yeah,
but he didn't, because like if you look at like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and a lot of other Jedi over the course of the film series, the episodic films, they're basically just like the brown robe over the lighter tan, whatever liner, whatever shirts they have on. It did stand out that he had this writing or some kind of text across his collar, which I thought was interesting. I don't know what that means. I'm thinking maybe he's some kind of like Jedi Secret Service, maybe, for lack of a better comparison. But I mean, I don't know if that was kind of his job. But
I mean, there are different types of Jedis, yeah. Yeah,
it's very interesting that it's like everything that I got from this is there was like they knew Grogu was there. They know he has some importance to something or somebody, if not the Jedi as a whole. So there was a plan to get him out if things went awry. So I don't know what is it. We're obviously going to find that out at some point. But one of the nice things about this episode is, it was downright heroic in this episode. Everything that Jar Jar did, that Ahmed Best did, because Ahmed Best has been very open about his difficult history with Star Wars after the whole Jar Jar thing. Yeah. So it's nice to finally see him find a spot in this franchise where he's going to get some appreciation. Again, film fandom can be very toxic and stupid. They can be very wayward. It can not make any sense at all the way they react. Star Wars has been kind of the antithesis of that. I mean, the way that they reacted to like Michelle Tran in the newer trilogy was just downright stupid. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you can not like her character, you can not like her kind of developing whatever relationship she developed with
Finn.
With Finn. But I mean, some of the hatred that the fans have given some of the characters and the actors in this franchise,
it's like you guys
have been downright stupid.
You guys know this it's not a documentary, right? It's just a fake Star Wars.
It's not real life, folks. It's pretend. It's a TV show. These people go to homes just like you and I do in the real world today, and they have to worry about things the same way you and I do in the real world today.
And they have to worry about the dumb shit you say on the internet. So
back the fuck off, because I mean, I just don't understand why fandom, especially Star Wars fandom, can be so toxic. I mean, I've seen it a little bit in Marvel. I've seen it a little bit in DC, but I mean, for some reason, Star Wars, it's been ratcheted up to another level for some reason. I just don't understand it.
This is one hell of a glow up, and I appreciate it. As soon as it kind of got spoiled for me because I actually hadn't seen the episode yet, and then it was just a still shot of him, and I was like, why is Ahmed Best dressed like a? Oh, damn it! I was like, well, that was. I mean, I didn't quite know when it was gonna happen. I just saw that still, and then when the door opened, he's like, "You're gonna be all right, kid." I was like, "Oh my God." And then, like I said, he went to town with those clones with those 2 sabers. I mean, I was like, okay, all right, I'm here for this. That's going from that to, man, like I said, he had a rough time. He was, contemplating ending his own life, to, sticking through it and still, come back as a Jedi Master that saved apparently one of the most important characters in this whole franchise. I mean, I love it. And again, hopefully he plays on that joke. Like I said, now we know that Jar Jar is not a Sith Lord, but he's apparently some Jedi Master. So that's
I do think it's a missed opportunity that they should have had the guy that played Jar Jar in his new Jedi role, and he's running with Grogu, and Jar Jar's like scared in the background or something, just for like a funny little note or whatever. Like, don't even call attention to it. They could just rip some old footage of Jar Jar because he's CGI anyways, right? And just put him in the background where he's running from stormtroopers, and it's just like 2 seconds on screen, and then you're on to the next scene or something.
He like
just as like kind of a.
He runs and trips on his little senator robe and just falls on.
Right, yeah, he's Misa getting out of here, and he's running, and he's getting out of the way, right?
That kind of slapstick is exactly what we would expect from Jar Jar, though. I mean, that's what he was.
Right. Oh, that's what I'm saying. I mean, what better way to control this, narrative of the toxicity or whatever you want to say, than just literally take the piss out of it. You have Jar Jar in the background with the guy playing Jar Jar being serious, doing something good. Like they should have done something like that. I thought would have been really cool. But
Jar Jar was also at Padme's funeral, so I mean, he is still there and he is still around. So.
Yeah, this is true. We never saw. The last time we see him was at her funeral in Revenge of the Sith, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's stuff in the written works, the Star Wars Legacy stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're gonna bring any of that into the. I don't know if we're gonna.
Who knows?
Into this.
Only if it makes sense and makes them money. So.
Yeah, well, as long as it's used right, I don't care.
Well, I know, but I'm saying it was. I'm still mad about the
story.
I'm still mad about the Boba Fett thing. I was like, in the movies, if you just look at the movies, you see him fall into the Sarlacc pit, and like, oh, well, that's the end of that. And of course, everyone hated that.
Yeah.
They love this guy that they've heard him speak 3 words, and they're like, "No, we got to do something about it." And they're like, "Oh yeah, he survived. He shot a rocket into the Sarlacc, and he crawled out, and he lived." I'm like, "That's awesome. I like that." And when Disney bought everything, like, no. If it's in a movie, it's still canon, and from here on out, anything we make is canon. I'm like, oh, so that doesn't matter now. So now Boba Fett died. And they're like, well, no, but now we're going to show that. I'm like, don't pick and choose, you little shithead. You just said, no, that was canon. Now you're like, oh, now I'm going to pick which ones I want to fucking tell a story for that are true now.
It's Disney's toy. We just get to play with it every once in a while.
I know
what I'm saying?
Don't
that's kind of how things work these days.
Don't throw a middle finger to Legends and then just cherry pick what you want. Like, I don't know.
Disney gives middle fingers to a whole lot of people. But
I'm glad I got to see it on screen at least, instead of just reading it in a book and then being told it didn't matter. And then to be shown some years later that, oh, it did matter. I'm like, well, damn it.
Yeah. But yeah, now we'll move on to the most recent episode 5, which will be a lot easier to talk about more openly now, because there is some shit that happens in that episode that requires further discussion. And is we're in episode 5 now. Is there 8 or 9 episodes in the season? I think there's 9.
I think so.
There was 8 in the last 2 seasons, so there could be either 8 or 9. So we're almost done.
Irregardless, on the high end, if there's 9, there's only 4 episodes left. There's a lot of shit that has to happen.
Especially with that bomb drop.
Especially with what happened at the end of this last episode.
Yeah.
Now, this last episode, obviously, everything that's gone on has been kind of leading up to something bigger, and we're getting one step closer to this episode. But we do take a step back a little bit, and we go to what's the name of the planet? I have it right here, and I can't find it. Navarro, yes. We have to deal with some pirate problems in this episode. So Carl Weathers' character of Grand Marshal. What is it? Grand Marshal or Grand
High Magistrate?
Yeah, High Magistrate.
They make a very big deal of that. High Magistrate Karga.
Yes.
He's actually managed to make Navarro kind of a peaceful kind of little place that a lot of legitimate people can do business at. He's built the place up into something very positive and reputable. And then, of course, some pirates come in and fuck all that up. Now, we remember from what?
Danny Swamp Thing.
Remember from episode 2 where Din Djarin drops in there to get some help, maybe try to find what's the name of the robot?
IG-88.
IG-88, yeah. I knew it was something with an I. But to try to maybe get him fixed to get some help. And then that's when we find out, obviously, that he's kind of built the town into something much more positive. But he did have that little run-in with the pirates while he was there. And, of course, he shot first. No doubt about it. We're not even making Din shot first.
I will be the one to shoot first this time.
Hey,
right.
I always said, you know how I know Han shot first? He walked out of the bar and greeted him.
He didn't have a big smoking hole in his chest, so yeah.
Right. But obviously that little confrontation with those little pirate thugs in that episode has had some ramifications. Now we get this giant pirate ship that shows up. Pirate ship, of course, being a spaceship because that's how they roll in this universe.
Looks like a damn zebra.
Flown by Gorian Shand, played by Nonso Anozi, who was in Game of Thrones. He arrives at Navarro with some very bad intentions and insults for the newly respectable High Magistrate Greef Karga. He's also smart enough to call Karga's bluff. Karga tries telling him, he says, "Hey, you want to get out of here because we've sent word to the New Republic saying we need some help," not understanding the New Republic is going to kind of leave them with their dicks in the But which is something we'll talk about a little bit in a minute. But yeah, so while he's waiting for somebody from the New Republic to come and chase these guys off, the pirates just pretty much lay siege to the place. They rain fire, all Thanos style, and start just blowing shit up, and they end up running Greef Karga and his entire complement of citizens out of the town completely, off into the desert. Again, another biblical reference for those of you who know. And I forget who was it that led the people across the desert. Tex, you might know.
Moses.
Was it Moses? Moses led his people across the desert. Was it him?
When they got lost for 40 years or some shit.
Yeah.
Something like that. I forget.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And exactly. then he parted the Red Sea and all that shit.
Yeah. But another
his outfit was red.
Yeah, another biblical
That is true. That is true.
But
he didn't have a walking stick though, like Moses always had. He needed a good walking staff.
Thank you, Rachel. I was gonna say Rachel's the biblical person, so thank you for confirming it was Moses.
I had the reference mostly right. I was afraid I was gonna get it really wrong, but I had it mostly right. But
yeah.
But obviously this makes it back to Captain Teva, who's been kind of a reoccurring character since season 2 or something like that. I think right about season 2. He's been one of the old X-Wing pilot that he runs into when he's hiding on the ice planet, I think in season 2.
Yeah.
Right.
But this gets to Captain Teva, and Captain Teva sends a message to the New Order. I'm not talking to you, Siri. Shut up. I don't know why. my Apple Watch. Every time I say something, my Apple Watch is trying to answer me. I'm not talking to you. Shut up, Apple Watch. But yeah, he gets this message and he tries to send word to his superior saying, "I'm going to take some guys over there. I need some backup to go chase off these pirates." And the one guy says, "Hey, you're not going to get an answer. They're weeks behind on dealing with anything." So he decides, well, I'm just going to go down to headquarters and ask them myself. He rolls up in there and sees one of my favorite actors of all time, Tim Meadows, who I think is absolutely awesome. But I'm trying to remember his name. What is Tim Meadows' name in this? Colonel Tuttle. So he does go down there. He meets this Colonel Tuttle, played by Tim Meadows. And he said he would love to honor it, but he's like, they haven't signed any treaties or whatever with us, so we're not really compelled to go over there and help them out. And he kind of says to himself, well, we can't help them until they're dead. He's like, what does this even mean? And they're kind of like, yeah. And I thought it was really interesting that right at this point where they're having the conversation is when Kane walks back in. Malaya Kane walks in.
Conveniently just walks in.
It was very.
I'm going to the commissary. Yeah.
Her interruption seemed very intentional, like she was trying to insert herself in this.
That was the Dennis Nedry thing. Hey, I want to go to the vending machine. Does anyone want anything? You heard what was going on.
Yeah, I thought that whole thing, it was interesting the way that she kind of very intentionally inserts herself into this conversation. And there was even a couple of shots going back and forth between her and Teva. Like,
Oh, yeah.
she says, "I chose to be." He goes, "You didn't choose to be here. You were arrested. You don't have a choice."
Yeah.
It was.
I was liberated.
That big rebellion
That was-
patch on his shoulder. He's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you guys sound like Imperials." I'm like,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
obvious that he's not
Yeah.
falling for her bullshit or for the bullshit, really, of any of these amnesty people.
I got worried because he's like that one character who's like, "Oh, I'm connecting all the dots." I'm like, "Don't tell me he dies. Don't tell me he dies." He's the one person who gets it.
She was saying.
And he said that line, which I hate when something takes me out of it for a second and into the real world. He said something where he's like, "Look, all these things are not a coincidence that are happening in this order. And by the time you do something, it's going to be too late." I'm like, "Oh, shit." And you just, that's his mic drop and he walks out. I'm like, yeah, oh boy.
Yeah, but but after this conversation, it doesn't really go his way. He obviously uses a little bit of technological know-how, his former droid, to spot where the Mandalorian Din Djarin is. It just kind of shows up very unexpectedly on their little beachfront hideout, risking getting himself blown away, by the way, by doing this. But he just kind of shows up and says, I can't go and do this. Maybe you guys can go and handle this pirate problem for us, because I'm not really allowed. I don't have enough manpower where I'm at to try to command them to do it against without the Republic knowing about it. So that was a pretty cool scene. I mean, what did you think of that scene, the way it all played out? Like I said, that conversation between him, Colonel Tuttle, and Kane, I thought was really, really good stuff. What did you guys think? Jeremy, I'll go to you first. What did you think of that scene, the way it all played out?
It's nice because like you see him kind of have like that genuine concern and trying to voice for this little independent planet on the outer rim, and it's like, yeah, you want to have the underdog, you want to have the little guy be saved, and you'd think that they'd care to some degree, and I guess maybe he kind of gave the typical answer of like, oh, that's great, put it under advisement, and it's gonna get tucked away, nothing's gonna happen, and he kind of knows that, and of course when in that whole office, she somehow happened to walk by, the boss's door, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna go get some more those biscuits. He wants or whatever the fuck.
Right.
And it's convenient that he's just like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, didn't you do this or something? And I'm like, of course, you're just conveniently placed. And then I love the tension, like we talked about between him and Kane. Like just kind of, it's like he didn't want to look at her. Like, yeah, you piece of shit. Like, I don't even want to talk about, you're just as bad as anyone else who was ever in the Empire. Like, I don't care that you're in this rehab trying to do good, or like, he knows better, and I appreciate that. It's like, well, he tried to voice the opinion. It didn't end up working, so I guess like I said, the next best thing was to walk up on the. It was pretty ballsy to walk up on the Mandalorians. They're trying to hide. In an orange, I mean, as cool as those orange flight suits are, I'm like, that's not exactly the most tactical thing to wear. I mean, you walk up on the beach with a bright orange like flight suit. It's like, yeah,
you're wearing orange shirt, pants, and a blue helmet. Everybody can see you. I mean,
not that I didn't hear your ship coming in, and I know he knew that. He's kind of like, hey, we're cool. I'm cool.
But if we're being honest here, anybody who knows anything about operational security or anything tactical, if you're trying to hide, don't have your gigantic spaceship just out there on the beach when you're just in the cave.
Yeah,
how well are you actually hiding? I mean, you could at least, put it on the other side of the island, do something. I don't know, but you're not masters of hiding with the gigantic, space rocket right there. So maybe the Mandalorians need some OPSEC training, but what you gonna do?
Yeah, but really, who fucks with the Mandalorians though?
Right. Well, I'm just
how much time do you need to do if you're that kind of a badass,
Right.
Also, I love his little leather jacket with like the rebel patches and shit like that. That's pretty fucking cool.
It is kind of Maverick-like, isn't it? It's like all the combat patches from all the shit you've seen.
Yeah.
The scene of him with like in the beginning of this episode where he goes into like the hangout pool hall with all the other pilot buddies of his, and you see him like smoking cigars and drinking, and the one's like playing pool over. I really liked how like casual that scene was. With as much was going on in this episode, to kind of see how just how they hang out, or just when they're not trying to save the galaxy or kill the next Darth Vader. That's what they go do. You know what I mean? It's just it's small things. I appreciate.
Would have been cool if like he wore the flight jacket over top of his like suit or something like as his character.
Right.
That'd be cool.
You know, Jeremy,
Also-
you'll probably recognize one of the guys who was in the bar with him. The guy
I was
that
about to say,
substituted.
did anyone fucking notice that guy?
I noticed that.
Well, he's also the same race as Jaro Tapal from Jedi Fallen Order. I'm like the guy who trained. Like, oh my god, why can't I think of his fucking name right now?
I don't know. I've never played it.
That character is actually one from the animated stuff. From,
Yeah, I'm like, but him specifically, yes, is somebody. But I'm like, oh, also he's the same.
Oh,
race
the guy that had the, well, not the guy, but the creature looking thing that had the goatee thing on his face.
Yeah. I was
Oh,
like, first of all, yes, he is a specific one, but I was like, oh wait, he's the same. Yeah, as Cal Kestis. God damn, the guy. Who
yeah,
trained
he's
him.
also voiced by the same guy who voiced him in the animated stuff.
Yeah, that's the cool thing is they've got the same people doing the the character work or doing the voices too.
the scene where they're in the bar, the guy that you get the silhouette of the guy in the cowboy hat. Was that Dave Filoni?
It was, in fact, Dave Filoni.
Of course it was.
I thought so. 'Cause I saw that hat. And I'm like,
you get a
wait a
little bit
minute.
of you get a little bit of a look at him from kind of like this direction.
Yeah. You get like 2 seconds and you can see like the outline and obviously the same cowboy hat that he wears.
Well,
I
also,
figured that was him, but I
It
didn't
wasn't
know.
really in focus, but yeah, it's him.
doesn't Favreau
Right.
voice Pav Vizsla? So I mean, they're both in this universe. Right?
Favreau did, I think, for the first or second season when we first get him.
Oh, I thought he was still doing it.
There's somebody else doing it now, though.
Oh, I thought he was still doing it. Wow.
No, I think he did it for like there was a different actor that was doing it, but I think that was actually doing the body work, and John Favreau was doing the voice stuff. But I think they actually have the same guy doing both the body and the voice now, which tells me he's probably going to be a bigger. Well, I mean, he's been kind of a big part of this season already.
Yeah.
I feel like he's probably going to be a bigger part of this series moving forward. If not for the rest of this year, maybe for ongoing seasons. I'm not sure. I figured the reason why you make that move and hire somebody to do the voice and the body at the same time is because you're going to have him. You're going to have
Be committed to that role.
Yeah, you're going to have that character more involved. So you want to have that person there to do it on
Since
camera.
we're focusing on like him and like and then when he drops that bomb that that foundling is my kid. I'm like, there could be some more stuff here developed with this character. So that's exciting.
Well, you got to think he's not entirely trusting of Din Djarin either.
No.
And so when Din Djarin goes and saves his kid and then hands his kid back to him, there's that moment where he's like, "Thanks for saving my son," and Din Djarin just goes, "Hey man, this is the way. I'm committed to this thing. I'm committed to this thing the same way you are." And that to me was like a genuine show of respect between the two. So that's why when they have that scene in the cave, when they're trying to decide whether they go to we're blanking the place.
Carl. Carl Weathers.
When they're deciding to go to help Carl Weathers' character out, it's like he's the one almost to try to return that respect. He's the one that grabs the hammer, the talking hammer, and says,
God, I want that hammer too. That thing is badass, man.
Hey, we saw the armor swing that bitch around. I was like, okay, it's not just a talking stick.
Yeah.
It's also the silencing stick. Boom.
When the armor takes that gun around at the end of the episode, I was like, holy crap, that thing is legit, dude. That's right.
Sweet.
Yeah, so it was definitely a return of a little bit of return of the respect when he says, this is the point that Din Djarin is trying to make, that we are Mandalorians. We need to go do work. This is what we do.
It almost seemed like he was
this.
going to disagree with him, and then I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
But then when he's like, no, he's like, I've had my disagreements, but we're Mandalorians through and through. All of us.
Do the rest of the Mandalorians know that he has that dark saber, or do they not know?
I mean, it's kind of just on his hip, but I would.
Yeah, it's just kind of hanging there.
I would assume they know.
They know he's got his pistol on his hip. I would imagine he's just.
Boy, didn't he have a?
Yeah.
He's the one who had the duel with Paz Vizsla, so he knows he had it.
Yeah. In that episode of the
Boba Fett.
Book of Boba Fett / Mandalorian.
Right.
I need to watch Book of Boba Fett. There's so much I missed out on.
Well, I was gonna say because you didn't see the two of them fight.
Yeah.
Is when it's Paz Vizslas and the armor, and he's asking about this dark saber, and that's when he's trying to learn how to wield the dark saber, and Paz Vizslas is the one who he kind of has a little. I don't know if it was a sparring match. I think they were actually throwing hands, but he has a little skirmish with him, and he's trying to use it, but he doesn't really know how. It's very heavy to him because he doesn't know how to. He's not one with it yet, or something like that. I forget how to describe it. So there's already a history between these two characters. So when Din Djarin saves his son, it's like that's the moment where Paz Vizslas is like okay, this guy's on a level. I think maybe I should.
He's like, you've redeemed yourself now for taking your helmet off, and you saved my son. So We can be cool.
Yeah.
Right.
And on top of that, since then he's bathed in the living waters of Mandalore. So as far as their sect of Mandalorian people is concerned, this guy's proper again. This guy's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, then obviously they make their way to Navarro, and they come up with this plan to just wreak havoc on this pirate and this pirate ship, which was pretty cool. First off, I mean, cool. Again, another kind of cool dogfight sequence, not nearly as elaborate as the one that we got in the one episode, but still pretty entertaining nonetheless. And then obviously just a really cool battle going on. That whole thing. I mean, I don't want to wear on it too much because while the battle was really, really cool, it was really just the end of the episode.
Well, also an important thing was that one guy who has been throwing hands with Mando took off.
Yeah.
So that's also a loose end now because he was like, "Damn it, you coward!" He took off from him. Like he might come back too, with a vengeance or some sort. So that's something.
Maybe not this season. I think there's still a lot that has to unfold this season. So this could be somebody he runs into next season, or maybe just in a really bad time. Like maybe he starts working for the bad guys that we're like the bigger bad guy that we're gonna see at the end of this season.
Well, if we're about to talk about the ending scene, I mean, yeah,
maybe he ends up being kind of the heavy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that, and obviously the whole sequence where they take out the pirates is really cool.
Rest in peace, Captain Greenbeard.
Gorian Shard is his name. He is the Thing's baby cousin. From a galaxy far, far away. He's just he got a little bit more
Swamp Thing's grandpa.
He got a little bit more sun than the Swamp Thing, so he's a little greener, but still
a lot of photosynthesis going on.
Yeah, there's not enough fertilizer in the world to bring that guy back to life after he is on the ship that crashes into a volcano.
Captain goes down with the ship, man.
Volcano, so that's not gonna go very well. So R.I.P. Gorian Shard.
That was pretty badass, though.
We will miss your making fun of you, but we will not miss you as a character because you were a bad guy. But now let's break down that. Wowzers! I mean, there's a lot to that. As why am I drawing a blank of his name again? Fucking A. Captain Teva. Captain Teva is now back in space in his X-wing, tooling around. He comes across it looks like one of the Imperial shuttles from the original trilogy, the one with the 3 wings that comes out top. Yeah, it's a transport shuttle. This apparently, as you come to find out over the course of the scene, was the transport shuttle that was taking Moff Gideon to wherever the hell he was going. And it is now just floating derelict after being attacked and wiped out in deep space. And he sends a little probe over there to look from his R2 unit or R4 unit, whatever his robot unit is. And obviously, Moff Gideon is not there. This is the big reveal that he has been busted out. That Moff Gideon is now once again in play, and he's going to be a big protagonist for the rest of the season at least. There was a couple of things about this that was interesting. One is the fact that he finds the traces of Beskar, the Mandalorian body armor. Obviously, this is a plant. Unless there is a Mandalorian trained, a Mandalorian certified person who is kind of acting on their own, who was either working with Moff Gideon or was working on the part of people who are with Moff Gideon just to break Moff Gideon out. Because let's remember, the bounty hunters by nature, or by definition, really, over the course of history, you pay them to do a job and they do it. They're kind of ambiguous in their morals. So maybe there's a Mandalorian out there who's just like, I'll do this because you're paying me to do this. I don't really give a shit about Moff Gideon.
Kind of sounds like a certain somebody to me, doesn't it?
It kind of does. And let's face it, Boba Fett and Din Djarin, while they're kind of buddies in one respect, Boba Fett is still he's not exactly following the Mandalorian way anymore. He's definitely out doing his own thing. I mean, he's the Godfather at this point. He's kind of started his own thing. So it's not unheard of. It's not out of the realm of possibility that maybe he is kind of took this mission to break Moff Gideon out for whatever reason, be it for money or his own means. But there is obviously some Beskar found there to try to frame the Mandalorians for getting him out. And Teva finds this after going in there and asking for their help to defend Carl Weathers' turf. So it is a bit of a shocker to him as well. I know, Jeremy, is it a frame up or is it someone with Mandalorian tech? Because I mean, we had Timothy Oliphant walking around with Boba Fett's armor for a couple of episodes. So it could just be a bad guy who has some Mandalorian tech, or is it somebody with actual Mandalorian training? I'm
kind of wondering like how that kind of got rubbed off on there, because I'm like, Beskar, I mean, that shit's, you can get shot with it with these lasers, and it just bounces right off you. It's good. It's like actual armor. It's gonna knock you on your ass. It's probably gonna hurt, but you're gonna be fine. So I'm like, I don't know how this got onto this ship here, and how that seemed to be the only trace of anything, you know. So it maybe seems like a frame job, or maybe there's something more to maybe Moff Gideon put it there. I don't know, because he somehow had the Darksaber, for fuck's sake. I don't know. And I wasn't suggesting Boba Fett did. I'm just saying, like, you know, you have this guy who is a Mandalorian who's just kind of like, well, I don't care. It's all about money. Whoever pays me the best, and I can do a job because I do it well.
But who's to say it wasn't Boba Fett? Because he's doing his own thing.
True.
That would be the perfect way to bring him. I mean, I'm assuming there's plans to use Boba Fett going forward. I haven't heard otherwise.
I wondered if he was going to come back, yeah.
What better way than to, there was Mandalorian interference. Well, there's, like y'all said, there's one, the Godfather out there doing his own shenanigans. And maybe he was going to kill Moff Gideon. Maybe he wasn't working. Maybe he wasn't being paid to rescue him. Maybe he was being paid to execute, and things went awry or something. They could go 100 different ways with it.
And also, we got to remember, like, these Mandalorians are just all kind of just spread out across the galaxy, and there could be like some that are outcasts who have kind of fallen out or just kind of doing their own thing.
Well, that's, I mean,
Din Djarin and Bo-Katan. I'm like, yeah, you have someone who's very, very traditional in the ways of the Mandalorian, and someone who is not. Just even in that aspect. So there's a whole slew of Mandalorians out there that could still be, you know, could be doing their own thing.
Well, just because this group of Mandalorians wants to hold hands and get along, that don't mean the next group that they run into is going to want to, you know, get the band back together and, you know, go back home to Mandalore. You know what I mean? They may be happy where they are. You know.
It's just like when I was playing, I've been replaying Fallout 3, and I'm like, yeah, I'm all for the Brotherhood of Steel. I mean, it's not like I don't have a tattoo of the Brotherhood of Steel right there. Now, when you play New Vegas, you're like, oh, yeah, woo, America, Brotherhood of Steel. And even in that, there's some outcast Brotherhood of Steel who aren't, they still have their armor, they still walk around, but they're not tied with them. They're just like outcasts doing their own thing. When you go find them in the next game in New Vegas, you think, oh my God, it's the Brotherhood. Yeah. And you go in there and those guys in that sect of the country are complete assholes. I'm like, well, these aren't good. These aren't good Brotherhood of Steel members. Oh shit. You know what I mean? So it's like DC, Vegas, you got two different sects of, you know, the Brotherhood of Steel that are, one's kind of more aligned with the good things in life, and the other ones are living underground in a bunker who will shoot anyone who goes in there. So maybe that could be the case. I don't know.
I don't know.
Like David's crew and Jackson in The Last of Us. I mean, they're looking at things in two different ways, and you're getting two very different results. So
yeah, you know, communists kind of, or you know, religious cannibals.
Here's one of the things that got me.
I think I'll go religious cannibal. I can't be a commie. I'd rather be a commie. If that's my only choices, I'll be cannibal over commie.
I don't know. Jackson seems to be going pretty strong, but that's our show.
Put a poll up: communism or cannibalism?
The one thing that got me about the scene, though, is Beskar is not something that a Mandalorian is going to leave behind. That stuff's pretty.
That's what I mean.
Rare, and not even that it's just that it's rare. It's that Beskar is something that's very, very important to them in symbolism. So I can't. So if it was one Mandalorian, one person with Mandalorian armor anyway, whether it be a Mandalorian or somebody using Mandalorian tech, if they were there, they somehow were damaged, got killed, or whatever, and left that little bit behind, would make sense. But I would imagine it would take multiple people wearing Mandalorian armor, and I don't think that if one of them got killed, or if one of them was damaged in a way where it left that behind, that all of them would decide to leave a bit of Beskar behind, because that stuff's pretty invaluable. You know what I mean?
And remember who had it too. I think maybe all the way back in season 1, the Empire are the ones who had those bricks of Beskar that they offered to Din Djarin to go get Grogu in the first place. It's stamped with that Imperial symbol. So I'm like, they have droves of it. Remember the armorers even mentioned like, oh yeah, the Empire raided all of our Beskar and took that shit from us. I'm like, yeah, so they do have access to it. So with it being an Imperial ship or a former Imperial ship, doesn't seem too weird that there's just traces of Beskar in there. I mean, who's to say that was just a crew taking Moff Gideon to trial? Maybe he could have been doing something else and something went sideways. I don't know.
Well, Moff Gideon is not one of the bodies that he finds on there, but
Well, of course, the only one who's missing. Yes.
Yeah.
he's the one who's missing.
He's gone.
But one of the theory is that there was a lot of talk. I mean, obviously the whole Gina Carano thing. She leaves the show. Disney lets her go for whatever reasons, but they did say that she's out there in the world. That her character, the Cara Dune, is out there.
True.
Now they do mention that she has been assigned to a special unit or something like that earlier in the season. When Moff
That
Gideon
was the first episode. Yeah.
So one of the running theories is this is how they're gonna kill her character. That she was one of the people that was escorting Moff Gideon to wherever he needed to go, and they were attacked. And that one of those bodies, it's going to come to fruition that one of the bodies that was in that shuttle that is now deceased was going to be her, and that's how they're going to explain her not being around anymore. I mean, Tex, what do you think? Is it something that they could do? Personally, I like the idea of just having her in the universe somewhere, but what do you think?
I think. Well, I'm in the camp of they should bring back Gina Carano to just play the damn role, and Disney needs to get over their nonsense. But that's probably not going to happen. So, I mean, if you're not going to do something with the character and it's just going to be out there in the world, and Cara Dune is on, the moon of Tatooine doing blah blah blah. You can the more times you say the character's out there in the world, you keep hope alive. And if you're never going to use the character, you might as well kill it off. And I mean, do I think she got a fair shake? No, I think she got a screwy deal. But if you're not going to use her, kill her off. I mean, at least make her death meaningful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like her death would be meaningful if they did in fact kill her while she's
right.
Her character while she's escorting Moff Gideon.
Well, but see, here's the problem though. If they kill her off, do they show the body? Like, do you just cop out? Oh, she died off screen, and then you just move on.
Cop out. I think they'll probably.
I was gonna say it feels like Final Destination. We're in the sequel. They're all of a sudden like, oh yeah, the main guy died like off screen on some of their
right. Yeah, really? I mean,
yeah.
It's because I highly doubt that they're bringing her back to just film a death scene. I don't see that happening. No. Now, if they wanted to establish some goodwill with the fan base, you bring her back for an episode and maybe you show exactly how, if she is on that ship, how everything went down, and then you show her death. So you're not bringing her back just to die. You're seeing her get to die heroically trying to stop the bad guy. That, I think, would get a lot of goodwill. But
this is also the Star Wars fan base we're talking about. Like, you bring her back to kill her, we're gonna be mad. So,
right.
Well, they don't care about goodwill. They're Disney. They don't need the goodwill.
I know.
Disney don't give a crap. Disney hasn't given a crap for a long time. Disney.
She was one of my favorite characters from that season. I thought she was awesome. And then,
well,
can't have nice things. Like, I played as her in the Lego Star Wars game. We were streaming that. I'm like, I played as Cara Dune for quite a while. I'm like, I love this character. She's cool. And
like I said, I mean,
gun. So,
if you brought her back for one episode, you can show how she was helping transport Moff Gideon, and things went sideways. Somebody attacked and blew a hole in the ship or something. And however you want to do it, you do it. But
it could give a little. It could give a little more weight to having Mando get involved because, like, he knew her too. And if they discover, like, oh yeah, Cara Dune was on the ship, and Mando's like, all right, damn it, we're gonna go get this fucker. Like, let's go.
Right. I mean, it's not like, obviously, even if they're doing 9 episodes, they've got so much to unpack. They're gonna have to jam it into these next 4 episodes. So I highly doubt that they have time to fill that storyline in too. You'll probably just get a few lines of exposition of, oh, here's how Moff Gideon escaped, blah, blah, blah. You might get a couple seconds of a hint, but if these shows are 35 to 45 minutes long and there's 4 of them, either you're going to leave a lot of questions unanswered or you're going to have to hurry up and get to all of it. So we're probably not, if she is on that ship, we're probably just going to get like Frank said, oh, she died off screen, blah, blah, blah.
Well, here's why I don't think they're going to kill her character, at least not this season, not this way. I think they kind of want to keep her out there because if this show puts together a really bad season, and
Then they bring her back. Yeah,
I don't really understand why, but I've been reading a lot of stories that the ratings for this season are actually down considerably from the other two, which I think is kind of silly because I think the show so far has been every bit as good as the first couple of seasons. But I think if they run into a creative problem where maybe the show starts to struggle a lot, they might be like, oh, we'll go ahead and bring Cara Dune back to at least draw the viewers back so we can kind of right the ship again. And then she tweets something like a piston fire again.
I can see how people say this season's kind of gone downhill a little bit. Episode 3 for me was not great. Once they have the spaceships, attacking each other, and then they cut to the whole cloning story and the Sabbath, I got so bored with that episode, it almost put me to sleep. So, I mean, obviously you can't have a whole season of just action. I get that. But, I mean, I can see where people would complain. I can at least understand it anyways.
Well, you also got to think the dynamic about the two main characters has changed. Now it's not Din Djarin trying to get Grogu to the Jedi. Now their relationship has changed. They're not these sole two people in the show anymore. Now you have Moff Gideon is still a significant character, even though he hasn't been in the show on camera yet this year, anyway. Now you've got not Cara Dune, but Katie Sackhoff's character, Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan,
is playing a significant part of this series now. So you got to give some time to her. So they're not the two people that are the main stars of the show. It's like imagine the next season of Last of Us. It's not just Joel and Ellie. You're also going to have Marlene.
It's some dumb bitch named Abby. Yeah.
I mean that's going to eventually happen with the Abby character, which I'm pretty sure we're going to be getting at some point. So shut up! I'm not talking to you again.
I saw a meme the other day that said Abby is the She-Hulk of that universe, and I couldn't help but laugh my ass off.
To be fair, someone said the actress who plays Kane could play a really good Abby. I'm like, she's just as ripped as Abby. So I'm like, you know what? Throw a little blonde hair on her. Hell yeah, she could be the next Abby. And she already works with Pedro Pascal on Mandalorian. So hey, there's already the connection. I'd be cool with that. She could play that character really well. I was gonna mention, do you maybe think Kane had something to do with this? Because she could be doing some, inner workings. And they showed that thing where, I don't know if it was Moff Gideon, but, she came up to her and was like, here, tell me what you need me to do. I'm like, well, what is she doing? Did she maybe bust Moff Gideon out in some way? She worked something to get that set up? She's got to have something bigger, you know what I mean? Because she seems pretty hung up on, oh, yeah, I used to work for Moff Gideon, and she's not going to let that shit go. So...
I don't think so, because she seems pretty based there in Coruscant. I mean, yes, I know she's getting away on trains and stuff, but I don't know if they're letting her leave the planet. You know what I mean?
Well, she could be pulling strings, is what I'm saying. I don't, and remember, the Empire does have access to all that Beskar too, so I don't know.
Well, the first time I watched the episode, I had to go back and rewind on some things. When they said that there was a piece of the Mandalorian armor there on the ship, and Boca had to get that piece of hers replaced, I thought, oh crap, did she do this? But then I remembered, no, she lost it battling the other thing, and then they replaced it or whatever.
Dragon, yeah.
Right, yeah. So I got, like I said, I had to watch all 3 of these episodes today. I've been so backlogged, but I don't know. I don't think Kane would. I think Kane is working for Moff Gideon still, but she's doing it on Coruscant. I don't think she's out in space actually rescuing it. I think there's other forces at play here.
Did they even say what she really does? What is her job in this rehab of, former Imperial officers? What does she do?
Maybe she just goes to get coffee for people. That's why she ran into to get Tim Meadows a snack. I don't really know.
She's the unpaid intern, so maybe she's feeling a little
right. She's
the one who answered that question. Here, do you feel resentment towards your former or your 2-year employees? It's maybe she does. I don't know. You get asked that question every week. You start thinking to yourself, I kind of hate Bill from accounting. So he stole my biscuits.
Well, I don't, like I said, I mean, when it comes to who's obviously Moff Gideon lived, because I mean they're not going to have Giancarlo Esposito or however you say his name. They're not going to have
Esposito.
Yeah, Esposito. Yeah, they're not going to have him just die off camera. He's too big of a star, so he's obviously alive. So it's either going to be a big name like homeboy on your T-shirt there. I can't remember what's
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. Yeah, it's either him, and he's either acting on his own accord, or he was paid, or whatever, or there's somebody that we haven't seen enter the fray yet. I mean, maybe one of those pirate people or have something to do with this. Maybe those pirates are working for him as well. I could very well see that happening too. Like the one guy that took off in the middle of the end of the fight. Maybe he had something to do with it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. You could go a lot of ways with this.
I don't know, but yeah, that was definitely an interesting way to end the episode, because it was like, look, we knew Moff Gideon was going to come into play at some point. I'm wondering if maybe the work that Moff Gideon does isn't what leads to Palpatine being cloned in the new trilogy.
Yeah, that could be.
I've been thinking about that. Like, there's going to be a connection there.
Now they just brainwashed the Doctor, who knew how to do it. So maybe now they pluck him and Kane and run off with Moff Gideon and start doing that shit on Exegol. It's like, well, there you go. And then you got access to all those Imperial ships that you were trying to scrap and all that stuff that you eventually
I mean, that's how you
get access to. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well,
that could be.
if we're okay, you said we're like 10 years after Return of the Jedi, and
yeah,
the new trilogy takes place 20 years after Return of the Jedi. So we're only halfway in the middle of that. How far is it from episode 7 to 9? How many years is it? That
I thought it was 30 years between 6 and 7.
I forget off the top of my head.
I thought it was like 30.
So if it's
I've heard it described as roughly one lifetime. So it could be 50 years, anywhere from 50 to 70.
So it's a good number of years from where we are now till episode 9, when Palpatine has all of his Star Destroyers and he's back alive.
Well, if you think how old Han Solo is, he's probably in his 70s, 80s too, and he's just a human.
Right.
He's probably in his 40s in Return of the Jedi, so it probably is about 30 years.
I really need to study the Star Wars timeline.
It's weird.
This is worse than the X-Men movie timeline. Like, good luck figuring that crap
They have
out.
time travel in that shit. They tried to fix it.
Right. The X-Men movie timeline is a goddamn dumpster fire.
It really is.
Yeah, oh, good Lord. Like, you know, Days of Future Past and an Apocalypse. And who freaking cares anymore?
Yeah.
But
they didn't even bother. I mean, continuity was the franchise.
It would make sense for Grogu to go the route of Mandalorian, because they like to stay hidden. So that could explain why he's not present in the new trilogy.
Yeah.
That takes care of all that. Bing, bang, boom, we're done. But if we're going into this cloning stuff, that's going to tie to Palpatine. We're going to have to explain it, and that's when timeline comes into play for me here. How far are we away from that? And if we're 10 years out of Return of the Jedi, and we're another 10 away from whatever the episode 7 was titled, I can't remember what
Force Awakens.
Called. Force Awakens, yeah. If we're 10 years away from that, how far is Rise of the Skywalker from Force Awakens? Like, what's the time gap there?
There may be a year or so.
I don't think it's that long.
It's not that long.
So episodes 7, 8, and 9 are like within a year, basically.
Yeah, a year or two.
So we're about 10 to 13 years, we'll call it, from Palpatine. Okay, I could make sense of that time.
I mean, you could maybe like the last little bomb drop there is you see like them take off to some real dark and lightning-y scary planet, which we're like, oh, that's excellent. Boom! Now we're gonna start doing their work. So you know what it means. You know.
Okay, see, that's not that's not too far of a stretch.
It's gonna be the Empire Strikes Back there.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh yeah, the bad guys end up winning in this case because they have to set up that,
Right.
whole, the new trilogy. So, I don't know.
All right, we'll see.
I hope you know what. As much as I give them crap for cherry picking stuff from Legends, I'm like, you are in the timeline. You are working right now in the timeline of one of my favorite people that I really hope they would bring in is Mara Jade Skywalker. Like, you could do it. Just
Mara Jade Skywalker.
Mara Jade Skywalker, who was Luke Skywalker's wife.
Oh, I didn't know Luke Skywalker got married.
I know, right? Because Disney said screw you guys. She's pretty badass. You talk about like a redhead and a leather like tank top, and she's got like a purple lightsaber, and she's pretty badass. Yeah,
there you go.
I'm hoping we go that route. Maybe if we want to start pulling stuff from.
I want to see a return of Mace Windu. Somehow they need to make that happen.
Somehow Windu returns.
Somehow Windu returns. I don't want Force Ghost either. I don't want him to cheap out. I want to see Sam Jackson in the flesh, cussing people and being like, "You cut off my dadgum hands," and blah 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 blah.
Hey,
whatever.
Motherfucker.
You know what? We could. She does appear in the now non-canon Legends series as the wife of Luke Skywalker and mother of Ben Skywalker, which that could be confusing as hell. Voiced by Affiliations, the New Republic, in the New Jedi Order. So I didn't even realize.
I don't see them doing that though.
Come on, we could. I would love that.
They've already fixed Luke Skywalker compared to what the new trilogy had him doing by drinking goat's milk and throwing lightsabers in the water. So they've already done that better. You know what I mean? Why not give him a wife too? You know what I mean?
Well, also this is a villains wiki. I'm like, you can't tell me this isn't a badass shot of her with the the clone troopers in the background and the Star Destroyer. So,
yeah.
Like, I wish I could find a better. Like, this is always the one I see of her. Like I said,
You know who
red
can
hair,
play her?
purple saber.
You know who can play her?
Yeah, red hair.
Are you seeing it?
I know.
Hang on,
I'm telling you,
And she's already involved in Star Wars. She's directing
guys.
That's all I'm saying.
If this is a white redheaded character, Disney's gonna have to cast a black chick because that's just what Disney does these days.
Then make her black, trans, and gay. That's how
yeah.
I don't even know how you do all those things at the same time. But
If it is a white redheaded character, it has to be black now. That's the rules. I don't make them. I just have to follow them.
I know.
So, sorry.
We've already got Bryce Dallas Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
You're saying she's already in house. Can't tell me
I did see that she was going to be directing the finale episode. I read that on Twitter, I believe, today. So they've got her pegged in pretty well. Her and what's the black guy's name that directs for the show too?
Carl Weathers.
Yeah, him and her were going to be directing, I think, the final episodes. It said on the Twitter post.
All right.
So take that for what it's worth.
Directing Bryce Dallas Howard is directing the next episode.
Ooh.
And Rick Famuyiwa is directing the last two. So there's 8 episodes in this season. So we've got 6, 7, 8. There's 3 episodes left.
Holy crap! They've got a lot of loose ends to possibly tie. I bet you there's a lot that's left undone because there's just too much right now.
Yeah, you got to have the people come back. You leave it on a cliffhanger.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, there's no way that. Well, obviously, it's not going to be tied up into a nice bow because they're going to keep going forward. But this is going to be a cliffhanger ending for sure.
I don't know if it'll necessarily be a cliffhanger ending. I think they're going to leave a lot of shit open.
Yeah.
Also, one of the questions that is coming around after the conversation between Bo-Katan and the armor is who is the armor? There's some stuff going around out there that may be her sister, not Sabine. What's the hell is her name? Oh, damn it, girl, I'm blanking her name.
She seems older. Her voice seems older.
Satine. Her sister Satine. So there's some whispers that might be her sister who somehow survived, and she's actually the armor. So, because I think there's a couple of conversations they've had the last couple episodes there is something brewing between them. I don't know if it's a rivalry or respect or what, but there is something brewing that is going to come to fruition at some point. Maybe not quite this season. I think if it ends up being her sister Satine, I think that might be something that they explore like in the next season.
Oh, she's just as good of a fighter as Boca is. I mean,
you saw her swinging that hammer.
Yeah, go back and look at how she was. I mean, she didn't even have no guns. She had a pair of pliers and a dadgum sledgehammer. And she took that Gatling gun around like he was nothing, dude.
Like Vulcan neck punched that guy with the fucking tongs.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, she got him with them tongs and then that hammer upside the back and old
spine, and I was like, oh,
right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude, that was
damn.
That hammer shot looked like some John Wick action is what it looked like, how she was moving, dude. I was like, oh my, okay.
We had to cut the Chris Tucker. You got knocked the fuck out.
Oh yeah. That was that was legit. I don't know.
I want to know if maybe what the end of that conversation was, like you said, when we were talking about her seeing the mythosaur. Because she kept telling her, like, but it was real. Like, and she's like, oh, that's cool. You saw a vision. She's like, no, I saw it for real. And then she's like, and then she's like, take your helmet off. I'm like, wait, what? And she's even like, why? She's like, well, don't you respect my, my room? And he's like, yeah, but like, I just got here.
Yeah,
I just got here.
That was an interesting conversation. I thought it's like
I just got in the club. You told me to take the helmet off. I'm like, is this a test?
Because when she tells her that, it's like she does react like, wait a minute, we're not supposed to take our helmets off.
Yeah.
What is this about? And the way
she was even talking to Dan, she's like, how do we eat food? Yeah. She's trying to learn the way, but
and even she seemed very apprehensive to take her helmet off, like she was buying into their way of doing things.
Yeah.
So when she does it very reluctantly, I was just like, I don't know what's happening here right now. The armor, who is all about this way of doing things, is telling you to violate.
She's like, oh, it's okay, you can take yours off.
They say it was very odd.
But doesn't she see when
is
Boca walks into the armory? Let's see. She walks in. She goes to see her in the armory at the end of the episode, and then she's talking about, well, don't you? Let's see. How does she word it? Does she say, "Don't you respect my position?" When she tells her to take the helmet off or something? Isn't that how they word that?
Yeah, it's like, don't you respect my space or something like that? Because she has this new forge.
If Boca is like the royalty, if she's the leader of the elite, why does she have to respect that position? What's the breakdown in power here? You know what I mean?
I don't know if the breakdown, if the hierarchy of power even exists the way it once did, because the Mandalorian people have been kind of scattered to the wind.
True.
And when that kind of thing happens in any society, then those norms, those hierarchies of individuals and of positions tends to equally just kind of be discarded for survival purposes.
Yeah, but with as hardcore as the Mandalorians are about tradition, I highly doubt that they're just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater here just because they're on separate places. If Boca's still royalty, she would still be royalty, you would think.
She still has a title. I mean, she just doesn't have, the sword or planet or anything. So
and this is my point. If she's still royalty, why does she have to respect just an armory's position?
Well, she is in their little cult now and going by their rules, so not by what she knew for this.
Right, but even if the president comes to your house, he's still the president. You know what I mean?
Well, and then I wondered if maybe what I was saying is that conversation we didn't see the end of is when she was like, no, maybe she was like, no, I really saw a mythosaur. And then she just parades her out there with the helmet off. She's like, oh yeah, now she walks both paths. I'm like, what do you mean? She walks this path, and the fact that she saw, like, again, she fucking saw God basically. And she, and you even kind of see her kind of smirk like, oh yeah.
I still think she's not sure if she saw it or not. That's why she didn't say it for sure. I still think that's.
I want to know what she meant by she walks both paths now. I'm like,
I think she's sure she saw it. I just don't know if she's sure how to process it. She doesn't know what it means.
Yeah.
It's like we've all spent, our entire lives thinking that dodo birds went extinct however many years ago. But if you saw one walking across your front yard right now, you'd be like,
"Wait a minute,
what?" there would be some processing between your ears would have to go over that information and be like, "Wait a minute, what?"
Your whole life you dig up dinosaur bones and some old codger comes in and says, "Hey, so I have dinosaurs on an island." You're like,
"Yeah,
right.
Right.
Life found a way, I guess."
Yeah.
Also, I do think it's interesting that she just walks out there with no helmet on, and she's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I know that this has been our rule forever, but she walks in both worlds now. But if she walks in both worlds, doesn't she have to kind of respect the way that both those worlds operate? And in this one world, everybody
right? Well,
because again, Kaz Bizzle's like, why does she have her helmet off? I'm like, right, the hell? I'm sure even Din
they're playing kind of fast and loose with the rules here. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's too much going on here to be wrapped up in 3 episodes.
Like I said, you gave Din Djarin so much crap for. You didn't even see him take the helmet off. He's just like, she's like, "Did you?" And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, screw you. You're not a Mandalorian now."
Okay, well, what if you just lie when you're a Mandalorian? Like, no, I've never taken it off, but every day you take it off.
I don't know how
just
you
lie.
I don't know.
And once he does bathe in the waters of Mandalore, why doesn't he load up gallons of that stuff just in case and keep it on the ship? He takes one little vial.
I don't.
Well, for that matter, if you think about it, one of the things that she does when he walks up to her with that vial of water and says, "Here's my proof. I brought you some of the waters." She pours it into that pool. You know what she pours it into? She's pouring it into a vat of the living waters of Mandalore. So I'm thinking to myself, why don't you just jump into that bitch real quick and be done with it?
Your head in there a little bit, yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Holy crap!
Yeah, right. She quenches the Beskar as she's working it. She's quenching.
Yeah.
She's not dipping in water. She's dipping in the living waters of Mandalore. That's part of making the Beskar armor. So she's got a big fucking thing of the living waters of Mandalore right there.
Well,
all right. I mean, so next episode we're gonna see her just take Grogu and just dip him in there, like, all right, baptized.
Dip him in it, put a
well, that's the whole thing. Like, if all it takes if you take the helmet off, God forbid, or Mythosaur forbid, whatever you pray to in this world, I don't even know. If all you got to do is go take a bath, I'd keep a bathtub on standby just in case I screwed up. Not 3 ounces in a vial.
Well, I think remember these insignias are pretty important to each Mandalorian, so that's why I think it's important she asks the armorer, because she asked her, "Do you want to keep your Night Owl insignia, which was on her other pauldron that she lost?" She's like, "Well, would it be possible to wear the Night Owl in the Mythosaur?" She's like, "Well, that's for everybody." I'm like, but remember, just like the Mudhorn, it's like that's important to her because remember we're like she wasn't sure, but she's like, "I think I just saw that shit, so I'm gonna wear both." Maybe that is the straight up symbolism that like, oh, she walks the path of what she with the Night Owls, and then like, oh, now she
maybe that's their version of the Trinity.
Well, she also says that the Mythosaur is the symbol of all Mandalorians. All Mandalorians.
Yeah. Because like that's the thing of Boba Fett. Like he has it on his, I think on his shoulder as well, somewhere on his.
It's on the shoulder, yeah.
On his armor.
It was always on the shoulder. It was on that like tan brown color piece on the shoulder.
Yeah, and it was like a red version of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like any armor. The armor does speak a lot to the character or to the person wearing it. Like even in our own, mythology, like symbols and colors and stuff like that. So that's what that probably means. For some reason now she walks 2 paths and now she can just kind of do whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a whole lot that still needs to be explained over the course of these next 3 episodes.
Yeah,
not just explained, but set up for what I'm sure will be a 4th season of The Mandalorian. Because I don't think they're going to let this. They're not going to let the show end too soon. Remember, this isn't Netflix. They don't do things for 3, maybe 4 seasons. They'll be like, okay, it's getting too expensive to run anymore. They got Mouse House money, so they can run Mandalorian as long as they want to run it. They could do. Yeah, they could do a season of Mandalorian to fill in every year between Return of the Jedi and Rise of not Rise of Skywalker, but Force Awakens.
Yeah.
So they could do a season of Mandalorian to cover each of those years, which theoretically they could. I mean, I don't think they will. I would imagine this show's got about 6 years in it before they decide it's over.
Because it's surprising that Stranger Things even went for 5 because 5's now going to be the end. It's like, yeah, that's surprising that even on a Netflix show lasted that long. So,
well, it was making up too much money. I mean, you don't want to kill the golden goose as long as it's still got golden eggs to lay, you know.
Well,
So,
you killed off your golden character there last season, so.
And let's face it, they're making plenty of money off of merchandising. As long as the show's on and they're making merchandising money, they don't make merchandising money off things like Red Notice. They don't make merchandising money off any of their shows.
Eddie Munson will be back. I'm calling it now. Eddie Munson's not dead.
He's got to be, man.
He will be the Iron Maiden, some sort of esque logo creature. Eddie Munson is not dead. Write it down, folks. There's no way.
Yes. Bold statement, Cotton. See if it works out for you.
I think it's going to work out great because then Netflix gets to sell all kinds of new action figures and T-shirts that Jeremy's going to go buy 3 of each. You know, he's going to make all kinds of money off of it.
That means I might have to tweak my my cosplay a little bit too, or make 2 sets of it. Which by the way, I'm going to
Zombie Eddie or Demon Bad Eddie or whatever creature they come up with.
Which, by the way, I am going to wear when I go see the D&D movie this weekend. I'm dressing up as Eddie Munson to go see it. So
nice.
I kind of have to. I'm sorry.
Nice.
Oh yeah. I'll try to take a selfie outside the theater. So I'm just be like,
I'm surprised you just haven't character transplanted yourself into Eddie Munson at this point, like legal name change. You know,
well, I'd have to give about 3 or 5 years to grow my hair out, but you know,
you can start working on that while you're taking care of the legal paperwork and getting a new Social Security card.
It might take it. Yeah, that's true. It might take a minute.
Right.
You got plenty of time to learn guitar. Yeah,
right.
Look, he wore a wig in a TV series. There's no reason why you couldn't.
That's true. See, that's why I joke about. Like, I saw some of these Eddie Munsons at the con. I'm like, they actually had long hair. I'm like, no, I appreciate you, but technically, I'm actually screen accurate because I have a wig. Wait a minute.
Oh, if you ever get into a nerd off about how more Eddie Munson than you are than somebody else, please have Rachel record it so I can see it because that would be great.
We're just dueling banjos, guitars. Like
no, I'm more Eddie than you are. See how much more accurate my shoelaces are to the Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
See, I pull the tongues up on my my little Reeboks. Excuse me.
Every detail. Right where
I've got the patches. I got the patches perfect on my vest. Yours are off by an inch.
I was gonna say there was a guy who wore something. I think it was the one from Hot Topic, which isn't like the one that looks like from the show. He looked at mine. And he's like, "Dude," he's like, "I just kind of put this on." He's like, "I appreciate you. Actually look like you put everything in the right place." I'm like, "I'm just OCD. I'm sorry." He's like, "No, I love it. You got the back patch, the pins in the right spots, and the patches." I'm like, "Yeah," because that's. And again, I had the shield and the spear because I'm like, I don't see anyone do battle Eddie, so why not? Yeah.
Well, Rachel says she supports you growing your hair out. So.
I know. I can.
Well, Rachel, if he ever gets into a nerd off about who's more Eddie Munson, please record it for us so we can enjoy it here because
we can watch him slam him.
Yes, that would be great.
You ready for the greatest rock show of all time?
But that seems like a good place to start wrapping things up. Boy, there's a lot to go over for 3 episodes. I mean, some significant stuff. I mean, I wish I had time to have broken down one episode at a time a little more succinctly because there are some other things in there that I'd like to talk about that we missed. But hopefully we'll get.
Yeah, I've got some questions about some of these things.
But thank you very much to all of you in the chat for coming hang out with us tonight. We very much appreciate it. See, even BJ says you had long hair.
I was gonna say there was one time where I had my hair kind of long, but not like that long. I'm like, at one time, I'm like, I don't know, I haven't gotten past that length, and it's just kind of been this ever. Well, not a hat, but this ever since. Just the kind of shorter, just up here. So maybe.
But thanks to all of you for coming and hanging out with us tonight. We very much appreciate it. Thank you to all my wonderful co-hosts. I think Cora dipped out. I think she was having some technical issues.
She had headset problems.
Yeah, she was having a microphone thing, so she dipped a little early. But come here every Thursday to hang out with Cora. Hopefully, she will catch up with the Mandalorian and all the other stuff that we're going to be reviewing here over the course of the next few weeks, and she'll be able to stick around and give us her insight. And thank you, of course, to my hetero life mate Jeremy. Where can the folks at home find you, sir?
I'm here. I'm here now, and I'm here whenever we do stuff. So, any days that end in the letter Y. So, I know, like I said, we got movie after movie coming out. We got, I saw John Wick. You guys still need to see it. I'm going to go see D&D, and then after that, the Mario movie comes out. So,
Evil Dead Rise is coming out less than a month.
Evil Dead comes out. Indiana Jones is like June, but I mean, you blink and all of a sudden it's gonna be June. So
we're in the middle of it now, boys.
Yeah, here we go. It's gonna be one after another. So I'll be here doing that. I also had. I mean, you can see the name down there. But kind of get meta here if I can point at it right there. Thank you. It's the same name across everything on YouTube and Twitch. I have absolutely jack shit because I'm a very lazy content creator. But once I get around to actually setting up my PlayStation and whatnot, even though now The Last of Us is actually on PC, but it is absolutely running like trash.
Holy crap! I've seen some screenshots, dude.
How? Oh, well, the console players are just shitting themselves and laughing.
Blackface Joel is going all over Twitter right now.
Yeah. How about that PC Master Race he spent $3,000 on to have it look like a piece of shit? We tried to tell you. Anyway, I digress. Not gonna start a console war again because I really don't care. Let's just all play video games and be happy. But speaking of Last of Us, that's what I'll start with first because the show's now ended, and as much as I know that this is Pedro Pascal in The Mandalorian, it's sad I don't get to see his beautiful face. So,
well, he seems to take his helmet off once a year for one reason or another. He hasn't done it yet. So
I know, I'm like every season we've had some reason why. And I'm wondering if maybe that's going to happen again. So
I'm just waiting for like a wasp or something to fly into the helmet. They're like, oh crap, and they take the helmet off.
Well, and they know they take the helmet. I'm like, what are the rules? They have to take the helmet off to eat and drink. So the hell. Also, Rachel says my Sims runs beautifully. Like, we're not talking about Sims though. We're talking about Last of Us. That's a different. Trust me. There's no reason that it shouldn't run The Last of Us either. That's the problem. And I don't know if the amount of power it takes to run Sims as opposed to Last of Us is, it's just funny to me. But yeah, I'll be playing it on my glorious PS5, which does run The Last of Us. So so come experience that with me. It'll be a fun time before we God forbid start getting to Abby. All right, man.
She-Hulk.
A lot of the next season of Last of Us, those breakdowns are going to concern a whole lot of Abby. I'm happy. We'll see when we get there. And of course, to our good friend from the Lone Star State, our man Tex. What do you got going on, my friend?
I'm at /Vision on Twitter. I don't do much online these days. I don't have time, but I know Friday through Sunday over on Casey's Raw channel, they're covering all the WrestleMania stuff. Ooh. I'll be over there Sunday night. Probably not Friday or Saturday, but if you want to come hang out, I'll be there on Sunday night. So other than that, I'll be here talking about Pedro Pascal and everything he does in his career. At this point, I'm pretty sure if Pedro Pascal farted on camera, we would review it. So, yeah. It's just the way things go these days. It's all about Pedro Pascal,
And he'd probably win an Emmy.
He'd probably win an Emmy, and we would do a 2-hour breakdown about how quality the fart was and how long.
What it smelled like.
We do a whole thing.
That kind of thing.
Right. We would guess on the smell, and we get in detail with it.
Was it wet? Was it dry? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Have you seen that Family Guy gag with Bryan Cranston? It's like one of the Family Guy cutaways. I forget what Peter says, but the cutaway is it cuts to Bryan Cranston. He's just like on a grease. He goes, oh, shoot. He sneezes. And so then somebody from Oscar hands him an Emmy. He goes, oh, thanks. He goes,
right.
We're just throwing the Emmys at him.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
now, say my name.
if there was ever if there's ever a Pedro Pascal cult, I'm pretty sure we're charter members by now. So it's all good.
We'll make jackets,
Yeah, we'll get it. There'll be a hashtag somewhere on Twitter. Pedro Pascal.
Pedro's my daddy.
Pedro's my stepdaddy. My stepdaddy.
He is stepdaddy of the multiverse because he's just all over the place.
We just need him and be like, "What are you doing, stepdad?" That's what
if we can just get Pedro Pascal to play Bruce Wayne Batman and like adopt Dick Grayson, we can get the trifecta. We can get it all going. It's what
he's already been in DC technically, so.
Oh yeah. He was. Yeah, let's never mind. Well, hey, actually he could because DC's on new now. So he can be Gunn's Batman. We don't know yet.
That is true. That's all the elsewhere crap now. So.
Yeah. Never know.
Whatever. As for me, you can find me here every Thursday going over all the stuff going on in the world of entertainment, streaming, and all that jazz. Again, catching up on The Mandalorian today. Plenty of other things I thought about talking about. The whole Gwyneth Paltrow thing I thought was funny, but not really.
I'm surprised we didn't talk about.
Didn't she hit somebody's skin or something? I haven't even looked into it.
Somebody hit her, as I heard it all, but whatever.
Okay.
Bottom line is that all came down today. That verdict, and what was basically a 4-day trial that was really not worth watching.
Hopefully,
I clips of it here and there.
Hopefully, it didn't crack the egg that she keeps in her vagina or whatever. That's
horrible.
not. So.
I'm surprised we didn't talk about Kane the Conqueror getting arrested for assault.
Well, as it turns out, that's not really much of a story. I mean, for those of you who haven't paid attention to it, I mean, Jonathan Majors got arrested in New York a couple of days ago for apparently roughing up a female. Everybody was calling for Kang to be recast, all this other nonsense, and I was one of the few people that was like, "Can I get some information first?"
Right.
And then within 48 hours, there was text messages that had come out. The girl had already recanted her story. There was all kinds of other stuff.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Apparently, there's all kinds of evidence that is now coming out to the media that this was not, that while it did happen, that he was not really the aggressor that everybody painted him to be immediately. So once again, the news mob, blowing their load before they knew what the fuck was actually happening. And I was the one person I know that was like, can we take a deep breath and get the evidence first? And then as soon as people started to get the evidence, it was starting to look like it did not go down exactly the way that it was portrayed. So as far as it's looking more and more like Jonathan Majors is going to come out of this unscathed, which is just fine by me. I'm sure he's not a perfect individual. Neither am I. Neither any of you. But I mean, I don't want to call a guy guilty until ruin what I think is probably one of the more promising careers in Boston and Hollywood right now. Over stupid shit conjecture. I don't want to do that. I mean, he was great in Creed 3. I loved it. Yeah. I think he's been great as Kang. I mean, Ant-Man and Quantumania wasn't the best Marvel movie ever, but he was great in it. He's a great actor. And I think we really are entering the age of Jonathan Majors. I don't want to see his career get derailed over stupid shit. I mean, was he probably a part of it? Sure. Was he the aggressor that choked this woman out? No, not at all. Not as far as what the evidence says, but I mean, whatever. There'll be more news stuff hopefully coming around next week. Hopefully some good news. But come and join us then. Also, there's some other video ideas I have that I kind of want to have some fun with. It'll be good conversations for us to have. I think it'd be kind of funny. One of them, Last of Us, kind of related. I'll tell you guys about that idea that I had a minute ago. In a minute we get done. But thanks to all of you for coming to hang out. We very much appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us as we kind of covered the last 3 episodes of The Mandalorian. Again, it's been a busy week. We didn't go live last week, but caught up now, and we'll be getting caught up on the reviews as we move forward. Thank you guys very much for coming out. It's very much appreciated. Until next time, this is the way.
Adios.